Global evolution. I transplanted the heart of the Supreme God. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351, not very harmful, but extremely insulting. The rock barrier on Wanren's arm was shattered. At the same time, the rock armor covering Wanren's whole body was also shattered. The ultimate skill of collapsing mountains is advanced. The damage is increased by 120%. When the attack hits the armor, it can cause the target's armor to partially collapse. When the attack hits the shield, it can cause the shield energy to collapse. At the same time, Tyrant Blast is also effective. At this time, Bai Pu is holding the sword with both hands, and the strength judgment has reached the maximum value. Wanren felt like he was hit by a locomotive. His eyes went black and his body slid back half a meter uncontrollably. If he was not a hero tank, he also had the heavy armor mastery that was resistant to knockback and knockback. He would probably have turned into a flying man in the air. Wanren finally realized the horror of Bai Pu. His survivability was stronger than his own, and his output ability was not inferior to Feng Hero. Even Feng Hero could not easily break his rock armor with a single flat attack. However, as a tank, facing a powerful aboriginal boss, he had to go up even though he knew he could not win, and stuck in his position. This will at least allow teammates to deal damage and have a chance to defeat the boss. If you let the boss rush into the vulnerable teammates and slaughter them wantonly, when all the fragile teammates are dead, you will be the one who is unlucky. Wanren gritted his teeth and took on the responsibility. His teammates did not disappoint him. Chen-Je gathered the little natural energy left and used a wild long wooden spear. This was her strongest means of dealing damage to Bai Pu. Gu Cheng raised his hand to cast a spell, and a golden handprint floated above Wanren's head. This is his skill as a sub-T, Hand of Sacrifice, which can absorb 30% of the damage suffered by the target-friendly army. Even Feng Hero, who had been resting and recovering his strength, gritted his teeth and took a step forward, slashing with his straight blade, and swung a fierce front slash. However, Bai Pu was determined to kill. The dark gold tower shield, Vigilance of the Demon Spider Queen, had a few cracks on its surface. The Demon Spider Queen's spirit appeared, emitting a sharp whistle, at the cost of 60 points of equipment durability, ignoring the cooldown time, and launching the Queen's edict again. Two spider demon warriors appeared, one on the left and one on the right, respectively facing Chen-Ji's wild long wooden spear and Feng Ho's fierce sword energy. On Bai Pu's body, the mountain-like shadow condensed, and the volcanic appearance was activated. At the same time, Gene Fusion was also launched, selecting a gene fragment of an intermediate elite who was proficient in two-handed swordsmanship, and pushing his own two-handed swordsmanship expertise to advance level 9. A sword chopped vertically without any fancy moves. Wanren could only use the shield to block it, but Bai Pu's sword blade slightly deflected by 30 degrees in the air, and actively slid down along the side of the shield. The chainsaw sword hit the ground and bounced up. At the same time, Bai Pu followed up with a kick on the wide surface of the blade, giving it an acceleration, forming a smooth upward slash. Such close-to attacks, with a short interval, are enough to match the attack speed of more than 100 points of agility. Bai Pu certainly does not have such high agility. He only has 42 points of agility at most. The level 7 special effect Strong Wind of Two-Handed Swordsmanship increases the attack speed by 15 points. After the active activation of Swedish Royal Agile Ring, +4 special effect Wind Howl, it also increases the attack speed by 15 points, a total of 72 points of attack speed. The reason why he can achieve an attack speed effect of breaking 100 agility with 72 points of attack speed is of course because Bai Pu's advanced two-handed swordsmanship to level 9 has formed a strong crushing in the face of Wanren. It's like a high school student participating in a math competition and beating a primary school student. Bai Pu can control the specific situation of the battle and use raw factors to make his attack more smooth and free, increasing the actual attack speed. For example, the elasticity of the sword on the steel ground, the boost of the kick, and other factors. Snap! The inner side of Wanren's thigh was torn outward by the serrated blade, and blood splattered. His leg armor was torn and cracked like paper. The intensity of the destruction of the mountain collapse secret to the armor was really amazing. If the next blow landed on the same wound, the damage would be terrible. Wanren was hit by the knife and his body was unstable. Bai Pu turned around and bent his elbows, leaning back to his arms, and the hilt of the chainsaw sword was pushed back just right. Connecting with the aftermath of the previous mountain collapse secret, Wanren was hit by the hilt and staggered a step and retreated. Here it comes. This is the way of attack. The fighting skills have suddenly improved greatly. And the shield covering his body. It must be broken as soon as possible. Feng Huo's eyesight was still there at this time, and he felt the explosive energy contained in the volcano face shield. Having suffered a loss once, he immediately shouted loudly, "Guchen, use your ultimate skill to break his shield." Now Feng Huo and Chen Zhe were each targeted by a spider demon warrior. Wanren was in a passive state of being beaten, and Wansong was being chased by the 3 blood spiders. The only one who could move freely was Guchen. Guchen agreed and held up a spear with both hands. His body's surface shone with dazzling golden light, and the tip of the spear was coated with a layer of dazzling golden light. Judgment. With a loud bang, a majestic golden armored figure appeared behind Guchen and pointed at the target, Bai Pu. Bai Pu suddenly felt that he had no way to retreat, just like being sentenced as a heretic by the Inquisition. He could only take it head-on and had no way to escape. But Bai Pu didn't plan to hide. Guchen's ultimate skill only made Bai Pu give up the plan to kill Wanren directly, and use another way to kill him. He flew sideways and kicked Wanren, who had already lost his balance. He leaned sideways to make room, and the blade slashed down, accurately hitting the edge of the spear. This time, Bai Pu used the ultimate skill of the wind, which passively increased his attack speed, equivalent to shortening the attack pre-swing movement, and extending the attack post-swing retraction. With a loud bang, the golden light on the spear's blade collided with the energy of the bloody wind. The golden light shattered, and the wind dissipated. This is the horror of the ultimate skill. The ordinary attack with the advanced ultimate skill can even compete with the ultimate skill of the awakened professional skill. Of course, Bai Pu's strength and energy purity surpassed Gu Cheng, which means that his foundation is far superior, which is why he has such an amazing effect. Bai Pu did not stop, and with the elasticity of this clash of weapons, he even had time to rescue the spider demon warriors, and cut off the sapling inserted in the spider sack of one of the spider demon warriors with his backhand, that is, the wild growth cast by Chen Zhe. 1 against 4, completely looking down on the people of Zhejiang University. Not very harmful, but extremely insulting. The 4 of them were furious, and then they were extremely angry for 3 seconds. Still helpless, Bai Pu's defense was seamless. Although he had no shield, under the suppression of his combat expertise, his sword was everywhere, constantly parrying the attacks of several people, as if there were shields everywhere. Chapter 352, Go Down. 3 seconds passed in a flash. Bai Pu's blood river fighting spirit filled the energy of the volcano's appearance shield. He suddenly raised his arm, and a 7 or 8 meter long, thrilling blood-red sharp sword energy extended from the great sword. Not good. Feng Huo was at a loss. Although he could still activate soul burning once, Bai Pu had already prepared for this move and used 2 spider demon warriors to block his attack. Without any fiery breath mark falling on Bai Pu, soul burning naturally could not be activated. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. With a horizontal slash, the huge sword energy enveloped Feng Huo, Chen Zhe, Wanren and Gu Cheng. At the critical moment, Wanren roared and rushed forward. He no longer had the protection of rock armor on his body. He was only wearing the peak gold level armor that he regarded as his life. He rushed forward and collided with Bai Pu's blood-red sword energy at its peak. Boom. The ultimate skill of collapsing mountains first shattered the chest part of Wanren's gold level armor, and the remaining force was still unabated. Wanren turned into white light and was killed instantly. With Wanren blocking the central area of the collapse mountain sword key, the other 3 people naturally had an easier time bearing the attacks from the edge areas. Guchen, the deputy tank, stood in front of Chen Zhe. He knew that protecting Chen Zhe was more important at this time. Feng Huo faced the incoming sword key, but there was no unwillingness on his face. He only had about 300 horsepower left, his fighting spirit was dry, and his physical strength was exhausted. Even the sword key from the edge area could not be stopped, and he turned into light like Wanren. With 1 sword, he killed 2 people instantly. Bai Pu's blood river fighting key was also consumed a lot. He had fought with Feng Huo, and his blood river fighting key had been greatly depleted, and it had not yet recovered. The blood river territory had been opened in the team battle, and the secrets and skills were used many times. Now there are only about 200 points of fighting energy left. Fortunately, he is good at endurance, and his physical strength for continuous fighting is amazing, otherwise he would have been too tired to lift his arms. Ah, do you not need me to take action? Xuanpin's voice sounded from behind. Chen Jie chose to attack Bai Pu. Without anyone to stop him, Xuanpin finally succeeded in opening the gate of nature. Mr. Mile, the giant bear, made a brilliant appearance with a group of silver wolves and crow spirits. Leave these two to you. I'll go meet Skywalker, Bai Pu said. Xuanpin actually wanted to beat up Wan Zhen, as he was almost killed by Wan Zhen just now. If it weren't for Bai Pu's divine move, who accurately predicted and intercepted Wan Zhen's last attack, he would have had nothing to do in this game. However, Bai Pu was the biggest contributor to this battle, and Xuanpin must follow his eldest brother's wishes. With a wave of his hand, Mr. Mile, the giant bear, led the natural companions and pounced on Chen Jie and Gu Cheng. Summoners who have time to prepare in advance are indeed powerful. At this time, Xuanpin was more than enough to suppress two people alone, including Chen Jie, the forest sage who realized the mystery of life. If you want to cast a powerful spell, you have to gather energy. The endless pecking of the crow spirits and the waves of attacks from the silver wolves made Chen Jie exhausted. Gu Cheng was held up by the giant bear Mr. Mile, and then several silver wolves surrounded him, and crow spirits pounced on his face. Bai Pu went to find Wan Zhen without worry. He went to find Wan Zhen not to grab heads, but to accumulate combat experience. Wan Zhen's air combat type opponent is still quite rare. Wan Zhen saw Bai Pu rushing over, his face changed suddenly. He activated the remaining Pegasus soul power, flapped a pair of wings behind him, and quickly took off. But Bai Pu stepped on the ground with one foot, and the tip of his sword split the trajectory of the wind, and also leaped into the air. Gangfeng Falling Blade, originally stepping on the wind slash, is a self-created skill that Bai Pu has comprehended. Bai Pu saw that the upward momentum was exhausted, and his sword tip scratched, following the trajectory of the wind, and rose again with a turn, like stepping on the empty stairs in the air for a double jump. With this jump, he caught up with Wan Zhen who was in the air. Activate the secret of Gangfeng in the air and attack with all your strength. Two-handed swordsmanship level 7 special effect, strong wind triggers. Under the strong wind, Wan Zhen flew crookedly, his balance was disturbed, and he could hardly open his eyes. He could only instinctively shoot a gun to block Bai Pu's chainsaw sword. Bai Pu's two-handed swordsmanship expertise was still as high as level 9. The chainsaw sword slid and ran straight to the inner circle along the gun barrel. At the same time, Bai Pu held the sword with one hand, and the other hand suddenly grabbed the gun barrel, taking a deep breath, go down. With Bai Pu's fully armed weight at this time, it was more than 200 kilograms, and it was easy to drag Wan Zhen who lost his balance. The two did not fly very high and landed at the same time. After Wan Zhen stepped on the ground with his toes, he regained his balance and flapped the wings of the Pegasus again to try to take off. However, after Bai Pu's toes stepped on the ground, he also refreshed a number of varial turns of Gangfeng Luren, and he was not panicked at all. He held Wan Zhen's gun barrel tightly, and then rushed into the air, trying his best to maintain balance, and slashed at Wan Zhen with the sword in his hand. Wan Zhen was completely numb. The sky had always been his home ground, but it was the first time that he was chased and fought in the sky. He decisively abandoned his lance and flapped his wings to retreat. He was disarmed, so he was disarmed. It was more important to get free first. Anyway, he still had a spare one-handed weapon. However, Bai Pu swung his sword, and the energy of the strong wind wrapped around Bai Pu. He turned in the air and rushed in front of Wan Zhen again like an eagle catching a chick, grabbing Wan Zhen's right wrist. Wan Zhen was almost dislocated by Bai Pu's grab. He was furious, and with his left hand, he pulled out a long sword hanging from the buckle on his waist and stabbed at Bai Pu. That's right. In the air, Bai Pu and Wan Zhen's swords collided. Aerial combat is indeed different. Now Bai Pu's strong wind falling blade has been exhausted, and it is all thanks to Wan Zhen's Pegasus spirit that the two can fly. Bai Pu has to keep his balance in the air, so he can only use the wide side of the sword to block Wan Zhen's long sword stab. Wan Zhen didn't dare to go down like this. Blood Spider and two ordinary-faced men have joined Xuanpin, and have beaten up Chen Jie and Gu Cheng. They are watching from below. If Wan Zhen goes down, he will be beaten up by 5 people. Forget it, I'm going to lose anyway. Wang Zhen sighed and turned into a white light, not giving Bai Pu the chance to gain air combat experience. Bai Pu was in the air, without the flying power provided by Wang Zhen. After a moment of stagnation, he fell down with a bang. The two flew very far and were no longer above the Jinante arena. Bai Pu landed on the sea. Although landing on the sea would not be considered elimination, as long as he could return to the arena in time, Bai Pu did not want to become a drowned chicken. What should I do? What should I do? If I were Dongbo Changzi, what would I do? Bai Pu tried to keep his balance in the air and slashed with his sword again. His Gangfang falling blade had already lasted for 10 seconds. Now it was out of the scope of skills. He tried to use ordinary sword-swinging movements to cause the flow trajectory of the wind and change his falling route. Chapter 353 Win the Championship. However, Epiphany is not that easy. Bai Pu swung his sword continuously, trying to activate the secret of Gangfeng, but when he was falling rapidly, it was completely different from being on flat ground. The Blood River fighting spirit had no time to output on the sword tip. The live camera deliberately gave Bai Pu a close-up. He swung his sword in the air, but he fell down irresistibly, which made his movements look quite funny. Many spectators outside the Zhejiang University showed a mocking smile. Their school team lost, at least it made the culprit Gangsen look bad and saved a little face. In the expectation of everyone, Bai Pu fell into the water with a bang, boom. A surge of airwaves surged, and Bai Pu, who fell into the water, suddenly soared into the sky. Under his feet, the Blood River fighting spirit gushed out and turned into powerful Gangfang to boost. The force of this Gangfang boosted Bai Pu to more than 10 meters in the air. Seeing that his momentum was exhausted, Bai Pu took another step in the air. Another blood-colored gust of wind, like a jet plane, helped Bai Pu move sideways for more than 10 meters. So that's how it is. I was almost limited by my thinking. In addition to running to the sword tip, the Blood River Key can also run to the feet, activating the gust of wind, compressing the air to form a powerful reverse thrust. Bai Pu felt that the Blood River Key was on the verge of drying up. He used up his last Dao Key and took another step, moving more than 10 meters across the air, and landed on the gold and silver platform. At this time, Bai Pu's Key had been completely exhausted, and his steps were a little shaky. Wang Zhen, who returned to the outside, opened his eyes wide, as if he had seen a ghost. He was sure that Bai Pu had not used this trick of moving multiple times in the air just now. Damn, did he understand a new ability after fighting an air battle with me? Wang Zhen would rather believe that Bai Pu was hiding a move just now, which gave him a little courage to catch up. That's right, it was a chase. As the top scorer of the college entrance examination in 805, Wang Zhen, who is 1 year older than Bai Pu, has already adjusted his mentality. There is a considerable gap between him and Bai Pu, and now he is in the role of the pursuer. After Bai Pu landed, Blood Spider hurried over to support him. Bai Pu said, "I'm fine," and then looked at the prompt message of the spirit world's will. Based on your advanced secret, Gangfeng, you have comprehended a new secret effect, Gangbu. Gangbu, perform the Gangfang secret to stomp the air or ground under your feet violently, forming a powerful reverse thrust, and can move multiple times in the air. The first time you perform Gangbu, you consume 20 points of Blood River Dao Qi. After that, each time you perform Gangbu continuously, the consumed Blood River Dao Qi will increase by 50%. The so-called continuous performance is to change direction in the air before the toes land. After the toes land, they obtain the support of the ground, and naturally they are no longer within the scope of Gangbu, and the next performance will not consume additional Blood River Dao Qi. Gangbu is an explosive sprint. If it is launched in the air, the instantaneous speed is about 1.5 times of Bai Pu's agility value. If it is launched on the ground, the instantaneous speed can reach 2 times of Bai Pu's agility value. Of course, the distance is very short, only a dozen meters. Considering the heavy consumption, it is impossible to use it for medium and long distance running. This skill is still very useful as a displacement in battle, but it's a pity that if it can be combined with Gangfang Luoren, it will be better to have Gangfang protecting the body during the displacement process. Bai Pu put away this greedy idea. He felt that participating in the college competition was a correct choice. In the process of fighting with various geniuses, he could absorb nutrition and insights. Gangbu's special effects are somewhat similar to Haoshin's, Mind Freeze, and Fenghe's, Burning Soul, both of which are ultimate special effects. Comprehending ultimate special effects means that the awakened person has embarked on the path of creating a skill system. When enough ultimate special effects are accumulated and a large-scale system is formed, the awakened person will break out of the cocoon and practice the ultimate to the mastery level, and obtain the final powerful bonus. What Bai Pu didn't know was that when he realized the new special effect of Gangdu and moved back to the stance from the sea, the goddess of Wushan, who was drinking milk tea, almost spit out a mouthful of small pearls. This kid, he has already realized the special effect of the secret. Can he really make the secret reach the mastery level at the intermediate awakener stage? No, this is impossible. The difference between advancing to mastery is too big. No awakener has ever done it. Boss Steel Heart, did we win? We won. Xuanpin smiled and said. The two ordinary-faced men were ecstatic. Fuck, my buddy is now the champion of the college championship. And the main force of the championship team. The two ordinary-faced men looked proud of. My life is worth it. Although the two of them were slackers, they at least got their positions right in the later games, which made them understand. Xuanpin also smiled, with a little moisture in his eyes. He and the two ordinary-faced men had participated in the previous college championships, but they fell in the regional qualifiers every time. There was no hope at all at that time. In previous years, Xuanpin also paid attention to the college entrance examination, hoping that potential rookies could join Xichen Polytechnic University. This is obviously unlikely. How could a potential rookie choose Xichen Polytechnic University, which is ranked outside the top 200 in the country? Gradually, Xuanpin's heart cooled down. He had never paid attention to the college entrance examinations of Wanzhen last year and Bai Pu this year. He just heard that there was a record-breaking champion, but Xuanpin did not hold out hope. He did not think that the champion of the college entrance examination would choose his own school. Before the start of school, Xuanpin heard about Gangxin's joining. Although he was surprised, he could only sigh two words, too late. He is a senior this year, and he will have to find a guild to sign a contract and graduate after the new year. As a freshman this year, how could Gangxin grow up? Until Bai Pu appeared in front of Xuanpin, and his miraculous performances of turning the tide time and time again refreshed Xuanpin's cognition. Everyone else can say that Jinxie and the others are clinging to someone powerful, but I am not qualified to say that. I am the luckiest one. Thanks to Bai Pu, Xuanpin showed his strength as a hero professional summoner in the national competition. Especially after he showed the instant summoning ability of his professional equipment Nature Spirit Necklace, several well-known Class A giants have begun to contact him. A giant team. In the past, Xuanpin did not even have the courage to submit his resume, but now he is actually looking for me. This made Xuanpin think he was dreaming. Blood Spider stared at Bai Pu in a daze. Blood Spider could not tell why he chose Xi'an Polytechnic Institute. Maybe it was a small rebellion, or maybe it was because he was not convinced by Bai Pu. But after really following Bai Pu, going to the world of Flesh Plague, Distortion, and the world of Original Sin, Blood Spider found that his strength was rising rapidly as if he had taken a rocket. The most obvious reference is her distant cousin Lan Feng. In the past, Zuzu was weaker than Lan Feng, but now, she has completely trampled Lan Feng under her feet. If the two fight 100 times, Zuzu will win 100 times. When I'm with him, it seems that all my worries are gone. Zuzu thought silently. Chapter 354, Steelheart is only a freshman this year. Bai Pu felt the gazes of his teammates converge. The trust, respect, admiration, all kinds of emotions made him feel very novel. During the exploration of the spirit world, Bai Pu also felt similar emotions from the Aborigines, but none of them were as strong as today. Perhaps it was because this was the real world, where Bai Pu was born and grew up, and it was different from the spirit world where he was just a passing visitor. The 5 members of the Xichen Polytechnic School team returned to the exit from the junction of Pengliu Island, passed through the contestant channel, and came to the rostrum. Although Xianai was very sorry that the school team lost, her professional qualities as a host allowed her to control her emotions and loudly announce the results. The final champion of the Lingian 806 College Championship is the Xichen Polytechnic University team. Congratulations to them. Wow! White mist columns rose from the stage, and countless small ribbons fell from the dome. Applause rang out in the field. Although it was not warm and was a courtesy applause, to the 5 members of Xichen Polytechnic, it was a recognition of their efforts along the way. The applause soon died down, and many students from Zhejiang University in the stands left the venue in disappointment. Compared to the not-so-enthusiastic atmosphere on the scene, the online communities of various universities were in an uproar. Xi'an Polytechnic University won the championship. Fuck, Zhejiang University actually lost, can you believe this? Gangson is so strong. He is now an intermediate awakener. When will his character card enter the card pool? The online community of Zhejiang University was brutally occupied. College students from various schools posted in the community of Zhejiang University, asking how the students of Zhejiang University felt. This is no wonder. Zhejiang University has the style of the best university in the country, and the students feel superior to others, which has long made students from other universities dissatisfied. This time it is considered to be a vent for this dissatisfaction. A celebration banquet is naturally held. This time the school spent a lot of money to allow the school team to go to a psychic food restaurant to celebrate. The so-called psychic food is actually the ingredients of the precious parts of mutant beasts in the wilderness area, which are specially processed and made. In the psychic era of more than 800 years, how to make psychic food and incorporate the numerous mutant beasts in the wilderness into the human diet has long become a discipline. To this day, psychic food is still a major with great employment prospects for ordinary college students. When ordering food, teacher KK directly placed the menu in front of Bai Pu. Gangson, whatever you want to eat, just order it. Really? Bai Pu ordered a table of dishes without hesitation, which would cost at least 1 or 2,000 psychic points. Bai Pu is greedy, and everyone in the team knows it. There is no way, after all, the pure blood in Bai Pu's body needs to take in a lot of nutrients, especially rich psychic particles, to accelerate the generation. Recently, Bai Pu has been using pure blood to water the rune clay tablet, and his appetite has increased greatly. Jingzai has been scrolling through the comments on his phone, and he is very happy. Boss Gangson, come and see this rating post, it's so interesting. Bai Pu glanced at it. Rational analysis, how would you rate the performance of the 10 contestants in the final? The host of the post professionally opened 10 floors in a row, and posted a photo of the contestant on each floor. On Fenghuo's floor, some people gave 10 points, thinking that Fenghuo had tried his best. Some people gave 0 points, thinking that Fenghuo was too stubborn and didn't deserve to be the captain. That's too absolute. Neither 10 points nor 0 points are reasonable. Bai Pu shook his head slightly and pointed to one of the replies. I think this reply with 8 points is okay. Reply to Fenghuo with 8 points. Fenghuo's personal strength is beyond doubt, but it's a pity that he met a stronger opponent. His strength is 8 points. If he can be flexible, he can get 2 more points. This is too realistic. In the scoring post of the semifinals, Fenghuo's strength was 10 points, the ceiling level, but now his strength is only 8 points. Jingzai said with a smile. After all, he was abused by the boss Gangson in the singles, so it's normal for his reputation to drop. The second male with a plain face said. There were also scores from Chen Jack, Wan Ren and other Zhejiang University players in the follow-up. Generally speaking, they all scored 5 or 6 points. After all, they tried their best and there were no major mistakes in the game. When they arrived at the floor of Xi'an Polytechnic University, the 2 males with plain faces laughed even more happily. Many people actually gave them negative scores. One of the most aggressive replies was, why give them negative scores? Of course it's because they are a bit of a slacker. I've never seen such a slacker champion. To be honest, even if 2 ordinary people were to go up, they could still win the championship with the help of Gangson. However, some people still spoke fairly. These 2 are a bit of a slacker, but they still play a positive role. At least they can help Zuanpin take the blame. Zuanpin scored 6 points, a mediocre hero class, with weaknesses and strengths as obvious as strengths. I originally only gave him 5 points, and I gave him an extra point for his performance in the semifinals. Zuzu scored 8 points, which was as high as Fenghuo. The following comments are somewhat inappropriate. Zuzu has a hot body, slurp, this bear, this waist, these legs, so killer, I can't even imagine how comfortable it would be. This car consumes a lot of fuel. I guess only a tough guy like Gangson can drive it. Of course, there are also people who analyze and score rationally. Blood Spider is not weak in long-range and short-range combat. Whether it is the group stage or the knockout stage, she plays a very important role. If it were not for her stable performance, the solo competition would basically win a victory, except for being tricked in the semifinals. Zilligang would not be able to reach the finals with only Gangson. Give it 8 points. Finally, the 10th floor is Bai Pu's scoring floor. The owner of the floor can be said to be well versed in the secrets of water experience. A huge poster shows Bai Pu wearing heavy armor, with a strong body, masculine temperament, and exuding handsome and extraordinary boyish charm. 10 points, must be 10 points. Comma, one person carries a legong to height that does not belong to it, the god among gods. Comma, Gangson, please bear with me, 10 points is not just for you, but the full score is only 10 points. Comma, I thought Feng Hero was already invincible, but I didn't expect there would be a master. Whose general is this? Comma, tell a horror story. Gangson is only a freshman this year, and he can continue to dominate the college championship for 3 years. All the top students of Zhejiang University, do you feel that your future is bleak? Laughing with his hands covering his mouth, Bai Pu looked at it with a sense of novelty, but then he lost interest because he received a reminder message from the will of the spirit world. Congratulations to the Awakener, Steelheart, for winning the championship of the Chinese University Championship in Lingyun 806. Comma, based on your contribution on the road to winning the championship, you have received a reward. 75,000 spiritual energy points. Comma, you have received a reward, spiritual energy infusion, unique. Spiritual energy infusion will randomly improve your basic attributes. Comma, note, this reward is unique. If you win the championship of the university championship again in the future, spiritual energy infusion will not be repeated. Right square bracket. Chapter 355, Bag of Limited Wishes. Don't use psychic energy infusion for now. Teacher KK saw that everyone had received a prompt message from the will of the spirit world, and quickly reminded them, the total amount of psychic energy you receive is fixed. If you are not in good condition now, the psychic energy particles will consume a considerable portion of it to repair your physical condition, and the rest will be converted into attribute points. After a pause, Teacher KK gave advice, rest well, and wait until your condition is restored to perfect, then use psychic energy infusion. If conditions permit, soak in spiritual liquid for better results. The second ordinary-faced man asked excitedly, Teacher KK, how many attributes will be increased by psychic energy infusion? Well, the will of the spirit world will evaluate your contribution to the championship. The greater the contribution, the higher the total amount of psychic energy particles. Teacher KK said, generally speaking, it can increase about 10 attribute points. The faces of the two ordinary-faced men quickly fell. However, after they understood the secret of learning, their mentality had changed. After a short period of loss, they regained their happiness. It's okay, it's okay. We are satisfied to win the championship. It's okay if we don't add attribute points. This is the fact. Using the substitutes of the school team to replace any of the two ordinary-faced men, or directly replacing both of them, the impact on the battle situation is minimal. Of course, the two ordinary-faced men also have the opportunity to be infused with spiritual energy, but the added attributes will be less. Just when Bai Pu thought that the reward for winning the college championship was only spiritual energy points and attribute points, the next prompt from the will of the spirit world came, based on your outstanding contribution in this college championship, you have obtained a special item, limited wish bag, unique. Comma, limited wish bag, put your hands in the bag, it will fulfill one of your wishes. The higher the wish value, the greater the value of the wish that can be fulfilled. Current wish value. 185 points, valid for 120 days. Make a wish. Bai Pu was a little surprised. This, limited wishes bag, can actually make a wish and materialize anything the user wants according to the user's wish. Although it has willpower as a prerequisite, it is rare enough. As for its value, just think about the lazy garden landlord. Whatever you lack will be transformed. Bai Pu checked and found that the value represented by each point of willpower is equivalent to 1,000 psychic points. 185 points of willpower means that Bai Pu's wish worth 185,000 psychic points can be satisfied. This wish can be equipment, props, or even consumables with special functions. Bai Pu has not yet figured out how to use this bag. Fortunately, the validity period of this bag is about 4 months, so there is no rush for the time being. Soon, the psychic food was served. The main selling point of psychic food is the ingredients themselves. The favorite meat of the earth bear in the wilderness, the seeds of the demon sunflower, the gelatinous soup made from the tendons of giant snakes. Because these delicacies contain a lot of psychic particles, ordinary people can't eat more than 1 or 2 bites. If you force yourself to eat for the sake of deliciousness, you will only have a nosebleed. Everyone present is an awakener, and their appetite is much larger than that of ordinary people, but they soon feel full, put down their chopsticks and stop eating, and chat in 2s and 3s. Bai Pu didn't care about that. He took a bite of bear meat and felt his heart beating happily, channeling all the psychic particles into it and adding them to the cohesion of pure blood. At least half of the table of dishes was eaten by Bai Pu alone. Everyone was stunned, watching Bai Pu eat and drink crazily. Now I know why Boss Steelheart is so powerful. The plain-faced man Jingzai murmured, you are actually a fierce beast incarnation, right? What fierce beast incarnation? Do you think it's a fantasy novel? The plain-faced man number 2 laughed. After eating and drinking, everyone returned to the dormitory area of Zhejiang University. Rest one more night today, and go home tomorrow. Feng Ho. Everyone who returned was a little surprised to see Feng Ho waiting at the entrance of the dormitory area. I'm here to find Gang Xin. Feng Ho said simply. Teacher KK looked at Bai Pu with an inquiring look, and after getting Bai Pu's nod, he led everyone away. Only Feng Ho and Bai Pu were left in the field. What's the matter? Bai Pu wanted to follow the etiquette that met social expectations and care about Feng Ho's injuries, but he immediately realized that asking from his own standpoint was a bit annoying, so he had to give up the small talk. Today's game really made me see the gap. Feng Ho took a breath, his expression a little lonely. I don't even know how big the gap between you and me is, how can I catch up? Bai Pu didn't say anything. Feng Ho continued, next, I plan to go to the professional plane to train and become a high-level awakener. Don't be complacent about this, I will become stronger. In the future, in the high-level spiritual world, in the professional arena, I will wait for you. Professional plane. Bai Pu had also heard of it. For example, Feng Ho, Haoshan and others have been polishing their secrets and staying at level 6, just to make a breakthrough in the career plane. The career plane is actually a plane for improving career energy. The career energy of awakened people is divided into strong and weak. The career energy of high-end templates is very pure, and they have an advantage in priority confrontation, such as Bai Pu's Blood River Dao Qi. The career energy of low-end templates is relatively extensive, and they are at a disadvantage in priority confrontation, such as Bai Pu's Blood Dao Qi before. In other words, the priority is actually determined by the purity of career energy. The promotion of awakened people from level 6 to level 7 is a key node. At this node, the awakened people will not make a third job transfer, but will get the opportunity to cultivate career energy and make it more pure. In fact, it is the improvement of template priority. For example, Feng Ho, if he goes to the career plane, if everything goes well, Li Fang Dao Qi will make another breakthrough and become a stronger and more refined Dao Qi type, and the basic priority will also be raised from level 4 to level 5. Oh. I see. Feng Ho, you came to me for more than just this, right? Bai Pu said. He found that Feng Ho didn't seem to be very good at chatting, so the two of them might as well talk directly. Okay. I'll be frank. I'm here to contact you on behalf of the God's Messenger. Your auction was said to be held after the competition, right? Which God's Messenger? Bai Pu asked. If it's not necessary, it's better not to know each other's God's Messengers, because God's Messengers have different camps, and we awakeners don't. Feng Ho said. It's okay, I'm not a chosen one. Bai Pu smiled. You're not a chosen one. Feng Ho was shocked. Well, I don't like to be tied to a certain God's camp, busy completing the tasks of the God's Messenger all day. I like to be independent, open and inclusive. So, God's Messengers from any camp can do business with me. Bai Pu said. Feng Ho didn't know how to describe it. Do business with God's Messenger? Bai Pu's words I am equal to God's Messenger were said in a matter-of-fact tone, without any pretense at all. Feng Ho could only shake his head and sigh, I don't know if you are ignorant and fearless. If you knew how terrible God's Messenger is, you wouldn't say that. Chapter 356, Star-Picking Tower. Bai Pu didn't think there was anything scary about the God's Envoy. Although they have abilities and knowledge that the awakened ones don't have, they are also subject to many restrictions. Often they need to recruit the awakened ones to do things. It is normal for both parties to have a mutually beneficial relationship. However, in the current trend, God's envoys always like to engage in pull and take advantage of the labor of awakened ones for free. This determines that Bai Pu can't take the path of the elect. Feng Huo didn't dare to continue discussing with Bai Pu, for fear of blasphemy. He could only tell Bai Pu that he represented the Southern Ming God's envoy, the messenger of the Lord of the Burning Sun. The Southern Ming God's envoy was not convenient to appear in the real world. After learning that Bai Pu was selling the holy artifact, he gave this task to Feng Huo. Of course, another requirement of the Southern Ming God's envoy was to find out whether Bai Pu was a voter and pull Bai Pu to the camp of the Lord of the Burning Sun when necessary. However, Feng Huo saw Bai Pu's attitude towards the God's envoy, and wisely did not speak, but asked Bai Pu what type of things he needed to exchange. Bai Pu had a good impression of Feng Huo, so he patiently said, "I plan to auction 2 holy artifacts this time. 70% of the proceeds from one of the holy artifacts will belong to a person from the United States and Canada named Metallica, and the other 30% will belong to Blood Spider. The 2 of them are expected to exchange for the qualification of reserve voters." Feng Huo frowned. The price was affordable for all the gods, so it is conceivable that there will be serious homogeneous competition at that time. "What about you? You don't want to be a voter, do you?" Feng Huo said, "What do you want?" "I want to know how to use the holy artifact." Bai Pu smiled. "In short, I need to transform the holy artifact into equipment that can be used by the awakened." Feng Huo was shocked. He didn't expect Bai Pu to have such a big ambition. The rank of the holy artifact is probably not just the grade of the dark gold equipment, because the dark gold equipment is benchmarked against the common equipment on the Lord. Judging from the importance the Lord attaches to the holy artifact is definitely not just common equipment. Feng Huo felt endless envy. After confirming the time of the auction again, he said goodbye and left. After Feng Huo left, Bai Pu was about to go upstairs, but his eyes suddenly became blurry. In front of his eyes, it seemed as if there was a drop of ink, spreading out. The drop of ink turned into a black shadow, and then revealed its true form. This was a slender man with fierce eyes. He stood with his arms folded, his feet on the corner of the handrail of the stairs, looking down at Bai Pu. "Who are you?" Bai Pu asked cautiously. "Superstar Alliance, West Building." The fierce man said lightly. "Someone from the Superstar Alliance?" This West Building was obviously a high-level awakener, and his strength was unknown. Although Bai Pu was surprised, he was not panicked. This is Zhejiang University, which is almost equivalent to a safe zone. Unless West Building can kill him in an instant, he will face great trouble. With Bai Pu's current combat power, it is unrealistic for even a high-level awakener to take him down in an instant. Xiaolu did not take action immediately, indicating that he had no intention of committing a crime. "What do you want me to do?" Bai Pu asked. "Let's talk about cooperation." Zilao floated down from the handrail of the stairs. "Gangson, you took away a piece of the Immortal King suit from the border of the Demon Abyss. According to the information, you should still have other pieces of the suit, right? I wonder how many pieces there are in total." Bai Pu took a step back, a vigilant look on his face. "Don't talk nonsense. I have been to the border of the Demon Abyss, but I went to arrest wanted criminals, and I didn't take a single piece of your stuff. Don't be nervous. I don't mean to collect debts, because I don't like to do meaningless things." Zilao grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth, which looked a bit ferocious. "You should have 2 pieces of the Immortal King suit in total, right? Are you interested in buying 2 more? Are you willing to sell?" Bai Pu reacted quickly. "Are you also completing a mission for the messenger behind you? Do you want to use the Immortal King suit parts in exchange for a holy weapon?" Xiaolu smiled and shook his head. "Sacred artifacts are just a hot potato in your hands, and you can't control them at the awakening stage, so their value is not as good as an Immortal King suit, not to mention 1 sacred artifact in exchange for 2 suits. I want to use the 2 suits as a bargaining chip to invite you to join the Zhixing Building." Zhixing Building? Bai Pu was shocked. He had heard of this name. Zhixing Building is an expert organization established by the Superstar Alliance to recruit powerful awakeners. Every expert in Zhixing Building is an elder-level existence in the Superstar Alliance. They have a transcendent status in the Superstar Alliance and have considerable autonomy. Yinshu always wanted to join Zhixing Building and become a formal member, but he never got in until his death. By the way, if he can kill Bai Pu and take back the Origin Heart organization, maybe he can get in. Most of the people in Zhixing Tower are wanted criminals above A+ level. Bai Pu said helplessly. "Mr. Xiaolu, do you know what you are talking about? I believe you are very clear about my identity." Of course, as a member of the Chief of the Shen Set Army and an A-level agent of the Special Service Bureau, these are all your values. Xilu said without hesitation, we will keep your joining Zhaixing Tower confidential. Your current life will not change at all. You can still lurk in the Shen Set Army and the Special Service Bureau, and only respond to the call of the Superstar Alliance when necessary. I refuse. Bai Pu said firmly. I advise you to think about it again. Xilu stared at Bai Pu with deep meaning in his eyes and said, you have been involved in the vortex of the struggle between two behemoths. The official will not deliberately protect you as a mid-level awakener, understand? I came to you today to open a safe channel for you in the vortex, leading directly to Warm Haven. If you insist on not going, you will only be crushed to pieces in the vortex of disputes. I promise you, becoming a pawn means you are truly involved in the vortex, and your life and death are not in your own hands. Bai Pu said lightly. Haha, okay. The negotiations broke down. You'd better be careful in the future. Xilu left a last veiled threat, and his figure disappeared like a drop of ink. Boss Steelheart, are you okay? After Xilu left, suddenly several teammates from Zilligang rushed to Bai Pu. We thought you were beaten by Feng Huo and his men when we saw you didn't come up. Why did you suddenly appear? It's scary. Amidst the concern of everyone, Bai Pu felt a trace of warmth, but he still keenly caught a problem. I suddenly appeared? Do you think I suddenly appeared in your eyes? Yes, there was no one here originally. We were discussing whether to go to Penglier Island to find you, but you suddenly appeared. The second male with a plain face said. Chapter 357, Talent Tree. Second level. Open. Bai Pu frowned. Everyone said so, which meant that Bai Pu's perception was indeed different from everyone else's. Is it Xilu's method, dragging me to another secret space silently? Bai Pu frowned and thought, then rejected this idea. No, if he really dragged me into the secret space, he wouldn't have to worry about the sound of the battle being detected, and he would not hesitate to use props such as battle shackles to try to kill me. That's the other two situations. The first one is that the teammates' perception was confused in the silence, and Xilu and I were clearly next to them, but they didn't notice it. The second one is that Xilu and I both entered a certain high-priority stealth state. My perception was not enough, so I didn't get the prompt of the spirit world's will. Bai Pu breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know what position Xilu had in Zhaixing Tower, but just based on the trick he showed today, he was alarmed. Bai Pu had paranoia, always thinking that someone was going to harm him, and he was very wary of strangers from the outside world. Not to mention the giant Superstar Alliance, which was originally an enemy. We still have to become stronger as soon as possible. Bai Pu muttered. For the safety of himself and his teammates, Bai Pu explained the appearance of the West Building to his teammates. Why don't you go back first? I'll stay in Zhaixing for a while. Bai Pu said. If he returns with his teammates, he may be ambushed by the star-picking building on the way, and then his teammates will be implicated. No, we came together, so of course we have to go together. Teacher KK patted her chest and said, no matter how powerful the Superstar Alliance is, our school is not afraid. I'll call now. After learning about this, the principal, Mr. K. Xiang, attached great importance to it and personally explained it to the regional committee of the Jiangnan district. The district committee of the Jiangnan district also learned about the news that Xichen Polytechnic University won the championship of the college championship in the past few days, and immediately sent a team of advanced awakeners represented by instructor Xiang Yinghu to escort the Xichen Polytechnic team back home. The auction of the holy artifact is scheduled to be held in a week. It will be held at the border. Even if Bai Pu leaves Zhaixing, it will not affect his transaction with Feng Huo and other reserve voters. The Zilligang team, escorted by military experts, left Zhaixing and returned to Jiangnan district. After returning, Bai Pu first went to the Special Service Bureau and used the authority of an A-level special agent to apply for a spiritual liquid soak to completely repair the hidden injuries accumulated in his body in recent times. After the soak, Bai Pu immediately used the championship reward of the championship, spiritual energy infusion. A thick milky white mist penetrated into Bai Pu's pores. Bai Pu felt lazy all over and indescribably comfortable. But then, this comfort disappeared, replaced by a strong heat that circulated between his limbs. This heat, like the first time he fused the source blood, the taste is indescribable. Fortunately, Bai Pu's tolerance for pain at this time is unusual. He survived the process of spiritual energy infusion without a word. You have performed psychic infusion. Your basic attributes have been improved. Your basic strength +3. Your basic agility +7. Your basic endurance +2. Your basic spirit +12. Bai Pu felt comfortable all over. In total, his basic attributes increased by 24 points. Almost catching up with the increase in his attributes after he was promoted twice. 24 basic attributes are more exaggerated than the 20 attributes of the top scorer in the college entrance examination. However, psychic infusion gives random attributes after all. When strengthening, the main energy flows to the lower weak attributes, that is, agility and spirit. Compared with free attribute points, the value must be discounted. Another good news is that under Bai Pu's persistent pure blood, the clay tablet with rune characters recorded was finally charged. Charge divine text, special item. After use, you can open the second layer of the evolution heart talent tree. The prompt of the spirit world will is very brief. Bai Pu's palm covered the clay tablet and was asked whether to use it, and he chose yes. Bai Pu's heartbeat accelerated, and a strong blood river fighting spirit was injected into the clay tablet. The divine text on the clay tablet shone brightly, and gathered into a stream of information full of mysterious text symbols, pouring into Bai Pu's body, and rushing all the way to Bai Pu's heart. Boom! Bai Pu's heart was like being hit by a sledgehammer, and bursts of golden stars appeared in front of his eyes, accompanied by a black dizziness. If it weren't for his strong endurance, he would have fainted by now. The clay tablet turned into wind-dried fragments and slowly disappeared. Bai Pu received further prompts from the will of the spirit world. You use the charged divine text. The second level of your evolution heart talent tree is opened. The second level of the evolution heart talent tree. Each enhancement option requires 3 legendary points to activate. Dual evolution allows you to open 2 adaptive evolution states at the same time, and obtain the mimic enhancement effect after opening. Not activated. B. Source Master Advent. Your source blood point limit +1, pure blood point limit +3. All your source blood apostles and pure blood slaves can join your mind connection and communicate with your consciousness in your mind image. You get the talent skill, Advent. Not activated. C. Enhanced meditation. When you use the genetic mind image for combat training, the proficiency of combat skills and mysteries will be reflected in reality simultaneously. Not activated. The 3 enhancement options of the second layer are much stronger than the first layer. The easiest to understand is item C, enhanced meditation. Bai Pu remembered the suffering ceremony presided over by Bishop Yakino in the world of original sin, which can cultivate skill proficiency. But after the enhanced meditation option is lit, Bai Pu can practice skills and even mysteries in meditation. It is stronger than the effect of the suffering ceremony. Bai Pu can also guess the effect of the other 2 options. Item A continues to strengthen adaptive evolution and can use 2 evolutionary states at the same time. As for the mimicry enhancement effect, it is estimated that in a certain enhanced state, the corresponding attributes or secondary attribute bonuses are obtained, such as the molten body state, and the fire damage bonus is obtained. Of course, this is just a guess. Item B, Source Master Advent, is the most interesting. Is this opening a chat group? Bai Pu is the group leader, and the group members are all source blood apostles and pure blood slaves. It is of great strategic significance. As for the descent skill that Bai Pu will obtain, he checked it. Since Bai Pu's military rank is already a second lieutenant, the will of the spirit world finally gave a relatively positive response. Descent. Your slaves can consume sacrifices to locate and request your descent. If you respond to the slave's call, you will temporarily descend to the target plane world, and the duration is positively correlated with the energy level of the sacrifice. Right square bracket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Sacred Artifact Auction. Bai Pu swallowed his saliva silently and closed the talent tree panel. The second level talent tree is indeed very powerful, but the number of legendary points required to light up each option is also frighteningly high, a full 3 points. According to the experience of the Blood Plague, Distortion, world, Bai Pu has gained 1 legendary point in a mid-level spiritual plane, greatly changing the fate of the world, and obtaining the world's greatest secret to achieve legendary achievements. Finally, there is another condition: the living or the dead recite your name, which is about world fame, and should also have one legendary point. Qin has been working hard to help Bai Pu expand the influence of the name Dio Fule, such as incorporating Fule's story into school textbooks, building statues of Dio Fule in various places, and engraving his deeds. But the time is still short, and it has only increased Bai Pu's popularity in the blood plague, distortion world, but it has not yet reached the level of qualitative change. From the perspective of development, I want to light up the talent enhancement option, Source Lord Advent, first. Bai Pu's brain started quickly and quickly sorted out the priorities. Lighting up, Source Master arrives, will generally increase your own strength, only increasing source blood by +1 and pure blood by +3. However, being able to communicate with source blood apostles and pure blood slaves is of great strategic significance, which means that even in the real world, Bai Pu can remotely control the slaves to help him conquer worlds and collect clues for legend points. The skill, Arrives, allows Bai Pu to teleport to the target world at a critical moment, skipping the process of pre-exploration tasks and directly participate in the battle. It can be said that after lighting up, Source Master arrives, Bai Pu's efficiency in collecting legend points can be increased several times. The efficiency depends on the number of his slaves and the efficiency of their actions. In the following time, Bai Pu has been practicing at the Zicheng base of the Shenzhen army. Interview invitations came in like snowflakes. Bai Pu would not refuse them all. He asked Li Ling to help him screen and only kept the interview invitations with greater influence. He appeared on camera several times, which was considered to have benefited from the popularity of the college competition. The famed roulette in the real world can be drawn once every 3 months. Bai Pu's real-life popularity took off in mid-June this year when he became the top scorer in the college entrance examination, and he rose to Class B, famous. If there were no follow-up, this popularity should have fallen rapidly. After all, the college entrance examination is a thing of the past. But the live broadcast that Bai Pu started, as well as his character card of Blood Armor Shield Guard, Steel Heart, in the virtual spirit world, all made a good impression and maintained his high popularity. In mid-September, shortly after the start of school, Bai Pu had a chance to start the B-level popularity lottery roulette. Unfortunately, he was unlucky and drew the miscellaneous items category, miscellaneous items of the B-level roulette, which gave Bai Pu gold and silver in the spirit world worth 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, 7 small gold bars, and several refined silver ingots. There is still more than a month before the next lottery. Bai Pu won the championship of the college competition, which naturally continued his popularity. He participated in the subsequent interviews in order to continue to get the chance to win the B-level roulette lottery. When the next B-level roulette lottery is over, Bai Pu will no longer bother to maintain his high popularity. In the United States and Canada, Metallica has already obtained a visa and bought a ticket for intercontinental teleportation. In the psychic era, mutant beasts in the wilderness area have always been a threat to humans, especially between China and the United States and Canada, which are separated by oceans. There are many marine giants living, and there are also violent and ferocious mutant birds in the sky. Whether taking a ship or a plane, it is not safe. Through the intercontinental portal, you can reach thousands of miles away in an instant, and it is absolutely safe. But the ticket price is expensive. It costs Metallica tens of thousands of psychic points to come here. Even if you come to China, after stepping out of the portal, you still have to accept the registration and inspection of the Chinese customs, which is quite troublesome. This results in a point that in the psychic era, there are fewer cross-border offline exchanges. Generally, if there is communication, it is carried out through some international borders. Bai Pu will not find an international border specifically for Metallica for this auction, so Metallica can only work harder. It is better to work hard alone than to work hard for a group of people. Finally, the agreed time has arrived. Bai Pu, Zuzu and Metallica entered the official high-level junction, Yunzhong, together. In the agreed quiet room, the pre-selected voters appeared one by one. Feng He, Haoshan, Wan Zhen, Chen Jia, even Wan Ren, Bian Chang Langzi and others came. It is worth mentioning that in addition to Metallica, there was another blonde and blue-eyed foreigner who also came from the United States and Canada. This is a middle-aged man, with a reserved aura, like an iceberg hidden in the thick fog, and his true strength cannot be seen. The middle-aged man introduced himself. His code name is Yellen and he is Yi Mang's father. An official voter? Bai Pu narrowed his eyes slightly. He remembered that the envoy of the Lord of Light, the envoy Zero, once said that he did not embarrass Yimeng for Yelin's sake. This shows that Yelin has a lot of weight even in the mind of the envoy Zero. Yelin is also one of the two high-level awakeners present. The other is the goddess of Wushan. It is precisely because the goddess of Wushan wants to participate that Bai Pu chose the venue at the high-level junction of Yunzhong. Fortunately for Yelin, it is at the high-level junction, otherwise he can't get in. Almost everyone has arrived, so let's start. Are the gods behind you ready? Bai Pu asked. All the prospective voters nodded. God's messengers cannot appear in reality, and the junction cannot appear either. Therefore, this transaction will take place in the space channel where everyone leaves the junction of Yunzhong. All gods will use their abilities to temporarily freeze the returning space channel. Bai Pu is not a voter, and the space stagnation on him is the responsibility of all gods. Blood Spider and Wushan Goddess are not voters either, and other gods are not interested in helping them, so Bai Pu must hold them one by one, and the three of them form a whole to ensure that the effect of space stagnation can spread to the two of them. Blood Spider on the left hand, Wushan Goddess on the right hand. Holding two soft little hands, Bai Pu couldn't help but feel a little moved. He secretly glanced to the right, and the goddess of Wushan happened to look over, and their eyes met. Bai Pu's eyes quickly moved down, and then he saw two high peaks from the side. Ahem. The goddess of Wushan coughed. Bai Pu looked straight ahead and said loudly, "Okay, everyone. Now let's silently recite to leave the border and return to the real world. We'll see you in the space channel." Chapter 359 Unified Unit. White light flashed, and a familiar feeling of weightlessness came, and then the space stagnated. Bai Pu, Blood Spider, and Wushan Goddess were suspended in the space channel, surrounded by other candidate voters. Behind those candidate voters, illusory shadows with a distinct aura appeared. The envoy of God has arrived. Whether it is the voters or the candidate voters present, they all stood straight and were very respectful. "Welcome to the envoys of God." Bai Pu looked around the venue and slowly said, "You should all know that I currently have 3 holy artifacts, but I will only auction 2 of them today. Let's get started quickly. Maintaining the stagnation of space requires our divine energy." The envoy Xiaosha said. "Don't be anxious, Lord Xiaosha. Considering that everyone provides various exchange items as bids during the auction of holy artifacts, it is more convenient to have a unified unit. My idea is to use source quality as the unit name to estimate the exchange items provided by everyone. The valuation is determined by us auctioneers. For example, 1 candidate voter is equivalent to 3 source quality units." The gods present looked at Bai Pu with a more serious look. They thought that Bai Pu had no gods behind him and knew nothing about the inside information related to the gods' camp, such as holy artifacts and source quality. Unexpectedly, Bai Pu even knew about source quality and used source quality as a unit. It was obvious that he knew very well what holy artifacts meant to the gods. "Very good, I like to trade with insiders, which is much better than ignorant people holding treasures they don't understand and self-righteously shouting out an absurd price." Behind Feng Hao and Wang Zhen, the southern Ming god envoy wrapped in golden light said in a gentle tone, "However, there are recognized formal units among the gods' camps, the unit of calculating divine energy, Kulun. For example, providing a blessed seed requires 10 Kulun divine energy, a sea-level gold item is worth 3 Kulun divine energy. It would be better to have a unified unit." Bai Pu smiled. He didn't care whether the source quality was used as the unit. Bai Pu continued, "The gods should come from different camps. High-level struggles have nothing to do with this auction." When saying this, Bai Pu paid attention to the observation. When the gods present heard this, their eyes quickly looked at each other and wandered. The god Nanming representing the Lord of the Sun and the god Nai representing the Lord of the Shadow looked at each other. There was a hint of undisguised provocation and confrontation in the eyes of the two gods. However, the relationship between the god Nui and the god Xiaosha representing the Lord of the Source Water was much better. The gods represented gods from different camps, and it was impossible for them to collude and buy Bai Pu's holy artifact at a very low price. Of course, Bai Pu would not only believe the surface. He added, "But if your final offer cannot satisfy us 3 sellers, we have the right not to sell. In other words, there is a reserve price for these 2 holy artifacts. If the final auction price does not reach the reserve price, it will be unsold." "What is the reserve price?" a female divine messenger with a human body and antlers asked behind Chen Jie. A fresh breath lingered around her body, dreamy and unreal. Bai Pu said, "The reserve price is kept secret for the time being, but we have indeed discussed the reserve price." Zuzu and Metallica nodded at the same time. The reserve price they imagined was that a holy artifact was worth at least 10 source units, which should be 33.33 Kulun divine energy when converted into divine energy units. According to the price just set by Bai Pu, the qualification of a reserve voter is equal to 3 source units, which is 10 Kulun divine energy. The 30% profit that Zuzu has is enough for her to become a reserve voter. And the 70% profit that Metallica has, which is about 23.33 Kulun divine energy, is enough to ensure that he becomes a reserve voter and takes the lead in the voters promotion channel. Blind bid. The divine messengers frowned slightly. I don't like blind bids. If you see that the auction is hot, it is possible that you temporarily increase the blind bid and let us go home empty-handed. A divine messenger who exuded a stern aura of white frost said lightly. Her name was Divine Messenger Bai Lu. She stood behind Haoshan and represented the Lord of Winter. I have written the reserve price in the scroll and affixed it to the holy artifact. Dear divine messengers, you should be able to distinguish the authenticity and know that I am telling the truth. Bai Pu said. The other divine messengers nodded one after another. Only divine messenger Xiaoxia whispered softly, this may not be. The truth may not be credible. What if Bai Pu did not say the whole truth and hide the truth in her heart, causing others to make the wrong assumptions, which would be more deadly than a lie? Divine Messenger Xiaoxia was tricked by Bai Pu at the beginning. She thought that several holy artifacts belonged to her, so she tried so hard to win over Divine Messenger Nai to help sort out the turbulence in space. But Bai Pu had never promised in advance, he just did not correct Divine Messenger Xiaoxia's misunderstanding. Okay, since everyone has no objection, let's start the auction of the first holy artifact. Bai Pu took out the endless power axe, and there was indeed a parchment scroll attached to it. I guess the price was inside the parchment scroll. Metallica was a little nervous. 10 kurns of divine power. Behind Yellen, the god of Zero, who was emitting a white sacred light, said lightly. This is the price of a blessed seed. 12 kurns. The god of Nai, who was dressed in a black robe and had a graceful figure, refreshed the offer. Huh? I'll offer 15 kurns. The god of Nanming, who was wrapped in golden light, followed closely behind. 20 kurns. The sudden rise in the bid made other voters look sideways. The one who spoke was the female envoy with a human body and ear antlers. She was standing behind Chenjia and was the representative of the Lord of Dreams, Goddess Titi. Bai Pu didn't even raise his eyelids. The price he set in advance was 10 source units, which must be at least 33.33 Kulun when converted into divine energy units. If no envoy raised the price, the result would be a failure. After a moment of silence, the female envoy Nai in a black robe spoke again, 22 Kulun. As if the fuse had been lit, other gods' messengers followed suit. However, up to now, the range of following the price has been much lower, and most of them just increased by 1 Kulun or 2 Kulun. Bai Pu was not surprised by this. He knew that although the gods' messengers needed holy artifacts, that is, source essence to complete their KPIs, for them, the holy artifacts were not the most important. According to the high-level intelligence given by the will of the spiritual world, source essence is merely the fruit born on the fruit tree, and the matrix is the most important fruit tree. If the fight now is for the matrix, I believe that all God's messengers will definitely give their all. Soon, the price climbed to 31 Kulun divine energy. 40 Kulun. God envoy Xiaoxia shouted out a high price. According to the prior agreement between her and Bai Pu, if other people also offered the same price, she could have priority in concluding the deal. Chapter 360, Consciousness Incarnation. There is a small data error in the previous article. Bai Pu's psychological reserve price is 33.33 Kulun divine energy, not 23.33. Subsequent auction bids are all increased by 10 Kulun, 40 Kulun. All the pre-selected voters were stunned. They participated in the whole process and of course knew what 40 Kulun divine energy meant. The qualification of a pre-selected voter is only worth 10 Kulun divine energy. 40 Kulun is enough to issue 4 blessed seeds. Metallica wanted to curse in his heart. At that time, the Saro envoy asked him to offer the holy artifact and promised to give him the qualification of a pre-selected voter. In fact, this transaction was not equal at all. The expressions of the pre-selected voters were a little strange. They couldn't help but think that after they tried their best to fight for the holy artifact and offered it to the envoy, the reward given by the envoy, converted into divine energy units, it seemed that it was not even 1/3 of the value of the holy artifact itself. In other words, the envoy has been exploiting their labor. Of course, even if they knew it, these pre-selected voters could only endure it silently. The role that the envoy can play in their growth path is really too great. The fact that one can use divine energy to force a return to the advanced spiritual world alone is enough to attract countless awakeners. Not to mention, when being promoted to a high-level awakener or even an evolver, the divine envoy can provide additional assistance. Although Haoshin and others are somewhat envious of Bai Pu's freedom now, and can bargain with the divine envoy and trade fairly, they also secretly think that without the help of the divine envoy, Bai Pu will inevitably lose the opportunity and be overtaken by them when he is promoted to a high-level awakener and evolver in the future. Bai Pu did not care about their psychology. Bai Pu also knew that he had suffered a loss from the divine envoy Xiaoxia. He used the holy artifact to repay the value of the sea-level gold item, Book of Destiny Revelation, and 1 guidance. Now it seems that the holy artifact is worth 40 Kulun divine energy, and the sea-level gold item is only 3 Kulun divine energy. Even with that guidance, the total value is only 1/10 of a holy artifact. However, the god envoy Xiaoxia was an angel investor at the time. If it weren't for the sea-level gold item she provided, Bai Pu would have had a hard time opening the rune tablet in Gustave's treasure chest, and now he couldn't open the second level of the evolution heart talent tree. From this point of view, Bai Pu didn't lose too much. Bai Pu recalled what West Tower said again. He also said that it was very reluctant to exchange a holy artifact for the Immortal King's set parts. At that time, Bai Pu felt that his words were dishonest, and now it seems to be true. The god envoy Xiaoxia bid 40 Kulun divine energy. Is there anyone with a higher price? Bai Pu looked around the field and asked. Several god envoys shook their heads slightly. The black-robed Navi divine envoy shook his head and said, Xiaoxia, do you really need to offer such a high price? You have already obtained a holy artifact in the original Sin world, and your other consciousness incarnations have also made good gains in the high-level planes such as the demonic hub and the dark abyss. Why do you have to compete with us? The divine envoy Xiaoxia smiled and said, I am still 3 pieces of divine power crystals away from reaching the reward line of my lord, so I need to go all out to fight for it. At present, my main consciousness incarnation is competing for the holy artifact in the Cheyenne world, but I am not completely sure. The conversation between the 2 divine envoys allowed Bai Pu to grasp a lot of information. First of all, the existence form of the divine envoys seems to have many consciousness incarnations. These incarnations are invested in different spiritual realms, just like chess players on different chessboards, playing multiplayer games. The original fight for the holy artifact in the original Sin world should be just one of the games. The chess games that divine envoy Xiaoxia played at the same time also included high-level planes such as the demonic hub and the dark abyss, and even a plane called the Cheyenne world. Bai Pu further thought that the gods in front of him should only be consciousness incarnations, and they were relatively weak and non-combat consciousness incarnations. Her main consciousness incarnation was in the Cheyenne world. Bai Pu thought of Feng Ho's words at the beginning, if you knew how terrible the gods were, you wouldn't say that. He didn't realize it at the time, but now he really felt that the gods were indeed very terrible, and they were almost in 2 dimensions with the awakened. The god Xiaoxia took the first holy artifact. Here is 40 columns of divine energy, take it. The light of the god Xiaoxia radiated, and a bag flew to Bai Pu. Bai Pu opened the bag, and inside were crystal clear balls, each the size of a thumb. The will of the spirit world sent a message. You have obtained 40 solidified source energy balls. At this time, Bai Pu has become accustomed to the 2 different terms used by the will of the spirit world and the gods for the same item. For example, the holy artifact, the will of the spirit world calls it an artifact containing source fragments. For example, the divine energy, the will of the spirit world calls it source energy. These little bits of knowledge are quite useful, and can prevent Bai Pu from being fooled by the god's messenger. He immediately separated 28 source energy balls, that is, 28 Kulun divine energy, and gave them to Metallica, and gave the remaining 12 Kulun divine energy to the blood spider. Dear God's messengers. Bai Pu added the honorific Sir, my 2 friends are both intermediate awakeners with very strong potential. One has mastered the advanced metal secrets, and the other has mastered the space-cutting secrets. Now they are willing to spend 10 Kulun divine energy to buy a blessed seed from everyone present, join your ranks, and become a reserve voter. I wonder if any god's messenger is willing. The god's messengers present all frown slightly when they heard it. For them who are high above, the blessed seeds are generally given. It is inevitable that people feel uncomfortable when they get blessed seeds through transactions with their own divine energy. But these god's messengers will not let their emotions interfere with rational judgment. The space secrets actually appear in intermediate awakeners. It's very rare. The white dew messenger, who was wrapped in white frost, looked at the blood spider. I am willing to grant you the seed of winter blessing. She follows you. Is she going to practice ice-related mysteries? The beautiful woman Tidi messenger with a human body and deer antlers said with a smile, I am the messenger of the great Lord of Dreams. The seeds of dream blessing are helpful for any mystery practice. You can join me. A messenger wrapped in blood-colored smoke said coldly, I can give you the seed of death blessing. The face of this messenger in the blood-colored smoke could not be seen clearly, but the other messenger seemed to keep a certain distance from him. When Bai Pu heard him speak, he realized that this person was the representative of the Lord of Death. The Lord of Death, the Lord of Suffering and Muzulu are in the same camp. When they went to the world of original sin, a group of messengers brought their own reserve voters and ran to the base camp of the Lord of Suffering to steal things. The Lord of Death also sent his official voter, Rosen, to help defend. Now that the Lord of Death's messenger has met with other messengers, it is good that they did not fight on the spot. It is reasonable that they are isolated and alienated. Chapter 361 I don't want to be a reserve voter. Just now at the junction of Yunzhong, no voters or reserve voters of the Lord of Death were seen. Now the Lord of Death's messenger actually appeared, indicating that he had been paying attention to this auction, and took advantage of Bai Pu's group to step into the space channel leading to reality at the junction. Blood Spider has been favored by many messengers. Metallica also has a messenger to extend an olive branch. The two of them are equivalent to working on loan, and the messengers do not need to pay extra divine energy to condense the seeds of blessing. Moreover, the messengers present are all intelligent beings. They realize that the relationship between Blood Spider, Metallica and Bai Pu is good. They really want to develop Bai Pu into a reserve voter, but no matter which messenger tempted him, Bai Pu declined. So the second best thing is to develop Bai Pu's friends into reserve voters and bring them under his command. This is a leisurely chess move, and I don't know when it will be used. The best thing is that this leisurely chess move does not require you to pay divine energy as a cost. Of course, Blood Spider and Metallica themselves have good talents. Without the guidance of the messenger, they have realized the mystery at the intermediate awakener stage. Metallica finally chose the Lord of Yuan Magnetism and obtained the seed of Yuan Magnetism blessing. After he became a reserve voter, he was very happy and thanked Bai Pu repeatedly. He seemed to pay 30% of the profit to Bai Pu, but in fact he made a lot of money. Without Bai Pu, he could only offer the holy artifact directly in exchange for a reserve voter qualification. The reserve voter of the Lord of Light was not the most suitable for him. With Bai Pu, he could still have 18 Kulun divine energy left after getting the most ideal reserve voter qualification of Lord of Yuan Magnetism. These 18 Kulun divine energy are resources that even the gods attach great importance to. Although they will have to be offered to please the gods sooner or later, they will definitely get a lot of benefits. If you ask Metallica why he doesn't hold a holy artifact auction himself, the reason is very simple, he doesn't dare. On the one hand, he doesn't have the courage to trade fairly with the gods face to face, and on the other hand, he wants to be a voter and doesn't want to leave a bad impression in the minds of the gods. To the Blood Spider. Faced with the favor of the gods, Blood Spider was very hesitant, looking at her and, the goddess of Wushan, and stealing a glance at Bai Pu. The goddess of Wushan whispered to her, why not choose the Lord of Dreams? It is said that you can enter the dream forest to practice in your sleep, and you will have tolerance bonuses for various mysteries. The goddess of Wushan felt that this was simply pie in the sky. Even for a genius awakener, it is already a blessing to be favored by a certain god. It is not like now that you have been recruited by multiple gods and can freely choose according to your own mysteries. I don't want to be a reserve voter. Blood Spider said. Goddess of Wushan. Not only the goddess of Wushan, but also other reserve voters, all looked surprised. Such a good opportunity is in front of you, are you serious? King Guyan, what are you thinking about? Opportunities like this are very rare. said the goddess of Wushan. And I thought about it for a long time, and finally figured it out. I am not suitable to be a reserve voter. Blood Spider secretly glanced at Bai Pu. The goddess of Wushan followed a line of sight of Blood Spider and could slightly guess what she was thinking. She said helplessly, "Don't look at Steelheart, he is different from you, or rather, he is different from most genius awakeners." The goddess of Wushan also found it difficult to describe Bai Pu. In her opinion, Bai Pu's behavior of not choosing a god and not being a voter was not wise. But Bai Pu's potential was obvious to all. If there is really someone who can forge a new path without guidance, that person must be Bai Pu. Can her own silly niece forge a new path? The goddess of Wushan did not believe it 100 times. "And, you said you would respect my choice," Blood Spider said. What I meant at the time was that I would respect your choice no matter which god camp you choose, but because of the context at the time, I didn't need to finish my words. The goddess of Wushan was helpless for a while. "Well, if you don't choose a voter, what should you choose?" Blood Spider smiled. "I want to change a part of the immortal king suit." The goddess of Wushan. She understood now. Blood Spider was going to give Bai Pu a great gift. But the goddess of Wushan couldn't blame Bai Pu. After all, the 12 Kulun divine powers were also obtained by Bai Pu for Blood Spider. Whether it was the blood and flesh plague, the distorted world or the original sin world, Bai Pu helped Blood Spider grow a lot. The goddess of Wushan couldn't say anything to blame her anyway, so she could only glance at Bai Pu with a reproachful look. At the same time, she felt a little blocked in her heart. Her silly girl was tied to Steelheart. Bai Pu couldn't sit still and said to Blood Spider, "You don't have to exchange the suit parts for me. Even if you don't want the qualification of a reserve voter, at least exchange some benefits for yourself." Blood Spider still insisted. Although the various gods' messengers regretted that they could not receive a potential reserve voter like Blood Spider, for them, exchanging divine powers with real objects was still a worthwhile deal. "Wes Tower, come out." The god's messenger of the Lord of Death, wrapped in blood-colored smoke, spoke. He removed the barrier of blood-colored smoke. Suddenly a tall and thin figure appeared. It was Zilao, a member of the star-picking tower of the Superstar Alliance, who had met Bai Pu and said something harsh to him. Bai Pu was slightly startled. He did not expect Zilao to be there all along. However, looking at the other god and voice, they seemed very calm, as if they had already noticed it. It seemed that the other god and voice had known about Zilao's existence for a long time, but they just ignored him and did not reveal it. "Sir 7 Killing God Envoy," Zilao said respectfully. "You have the immortal king suit parts, take them out." The 7 Killing God Envoy said lightly. Zilao did not say a word of rebuttal, nor did he dare to refuse. He directly took out 2 pieces of the immortal king suit parts with a brilliant green light. One was a helmet, and the other was an upper armor. These 2 pieces of the immortal king suit parts were the property of the huge organization of the Superstar Alliance, and should not have been carried by Zilao privately. However, the Superstar Alliance had previously sent Zilao to win over Bai Pu to join the star-picking tower, so he naturally brought these 2 immortal king suits to show his sincerity. However, Bai Pu refused outright. Zilu didn't even have the chance to show the allure of the suit before leaving with a harsh remark. So now the suit parts are still in the storage space of the West Building. A green suit has a normal trading value of only about 5 Kulun divine energy. The 7 Killings divine envoy said, however, for people who collect suits, it is normal to pay double the premium. So, 1 piece, 10 Kulun. Gold heart, which one do you want? Blood Spider looked at Bai Pu with sparkling eyes, and his heart was even more excited. Before Bai Pu could speak, the 7 Killings divine envoy said, "If you add the condition of choosing any one, it will be more than 10 Kulun divine energy." Chapter 362, Holy Weapon Converted into Equipment. "I don't want to choose. Which one do you plan to sell?" Bai Pu asked. Bai Pu wanted the upper armor more, but he remained calm and even forced himself not to think about it. He quickly did basic math problems in his brain to clear his mind. The 7 Killing gods stared at Bai Pu. His eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. "The upper armor is not for sale." The 7 Killing gods made a witty remark, "I'll sell you the helmet for 10 kulams." When Blood Spider saw Bai Pu nod, he happily counted out 10 source energy balls and completed the transaction with the 7 Killing gods, to be precise, with Zilao. Then Blood Spider handed the helmet to Bai Pu. "This gift is a bit heavy." In Bai Pu's mind, the word gift was replaced by the word favor. He took the helmet. Iron-horned helmet of the Immortal King, encapsulated, equipment quality, green, set, equipment requirements, basic strength 20, equipment location, head, attributes, strength +3, endurance +4, additional skill 1, strong enemy sensing, passive, depending on the strength of the enemy's aura, the wearer will present a different color of aura in the eyes. Additional skill 2, firm heart, passive, the wearer has +1 immunity level for the control effect and the mental level, requires hidden attribute, willpower to be more than 10 points to take effect. Durability. 40/40, description, mountains are flat, oceans are dried up, only I am immortal. Bai Pu put away the iron-horned helmet. Since the blood spider gave up the qualification to become a candidate for himself, Bai Pu is not a heartless person. He believes in the principle of equal exchange, and for this great gift, he must give something in return. You still have 2 divine powers. First, exchange for a forced escape item that can be effective in the high-level spiritual world. Bai Pu said. In the world of awakeners, high-level spiritual world forced escape props are rarely seen. Only the God Envoy has divine power, which can help the voters under his command ignore the requirements of the main task and force them to leave. This is also the reason why the God Envoy has a transcendent status and the qualification of the reserve voter is very popular. Bai Pu proposed to use 2 Kulun divine power to exchange for a high-level spiritual world forced escape prop. It was not a random price, but based on the example given by the God Envoy before, thinking about the price later. The Nanming God Envoy had previously said that a sea-level gold prop is worth 3 Kulun. The price of a high-level spiritual world forced escape prop should not be higher than that of a sea-level gold prop. Considering that taking advantage of the loopholes in the spiritual world transmission is the specialty of the God Envoy, the forced escape type props should be easier to take out. Sure enough, many God Envoys are willing to make this deal. In the end, Blood Spider chose the more familiar Xiaosha God Envoy and exchanged 2 Kulun divine power for an item, Blessing of the Lord of Source Water. Blessing of the Lord of Source Water, special props, quality cannot be determined. It enables the holder to ignore the requirements of the main quest, forcibly leave the spirit world, and return to the real world, can be used in the spirit world area of awakeners of any difficulty. Seeing this, the goddess of Wushan finally calmed down a little. Fortunately, Gangsun is not the kind of person who will just pull up his pants and leave. After taking the benefits, he has begun to think and pave the way for his silly niece. If King Gain can always follow Gangsun in the future, it seems not bad. In the last 2 explorations of the spirit world, King Gain's strength has improved by leaps and bounds, and has caught up with many prospective voters. The eyes of the goddess of Wushan swept across the faces of Bian Chang Langzi, Chen Jia and others. Hiss, it seems that the guidance of the messenger of God may not be as good as the guidance of Gangsun. Especially when Gangsun is alone, without teammates, and only King Gain is around. The attention King Gain can get is much greater than the attention she gets under the command of a messenger of God. This time, the decision made by King Gain may really be better than the path I imagined for her. This little girl has thought it through quite well. She knows Steelheart's personality and has made emotional investments in advance. The goddess of Wushan secretly looked at Blood Spider and gave her a look that said, "You are great." Blood Spider poked her head out and looked at the goddess of Wushan with a puzzled look. Looking at the clear and stupid eyes of her silly niece, the goddess of Wushan couldn't help shaking her head. Okay, I thought too much? This silly girl didn't think so much at all. She just wanted to give the best to Steelheart. The goddess of Wushan sighed secretly. Her inner drama didn't last too long. The voice of the 7 Killings envoy sounded again. Steelheart, including this helmet, you should have collected 3 sets of Immortal King suits. That's right. Bai Pu didn't need to deny it. This information was obviously revealed to the envoy by the West Building of the Superstar Alliance. The 7 Killings said, the Immortal King series is a large suit. When the suit reaches 2, 4 and 6 pieces, there will be a powerful suit bonus. When you collect the 3rd piece, it will not make you have a breakthrough in strength. After a pause, the 7 Killings continued, however, if you add the 4th piece in my hand, it will be different. He raised his hand to indicate his green suit, iron breastplate of the Immortal King. If you trade the next holy weapon to me, this suit will be yours. In addition to this suit, I will pay an additional 20 Kulun divine energy, as well as important information about the remaining parts of the Immortal King suit. If you sell the next holy weapon to someone else, I will not trade this suit to you, even if you offer double the premium. Cunning. The other gods were a little unfair. They realized why the 7 killing god envoy took the initiative to take out 2 sets of the immortal king suit. Normally, just 1 piece would be enough. It turned out that it was to act as bait to seize the initiative in the fight for the next holy weapon. Faced with this temptation, Bai Pu must be lying if he said he was not tempted. The immortal king suit, the bonus of the 2-piece suit is 10 points each for strength and endurance. Generally speaking, the effect of a 4-piece suit is much stronger than a 2-piece suit, at least 50% or even 100% attribute increase, and even add powerful suit skills. For Bai Pu's current strength, it will produce an immediate breakthrough. Bai Pu calmed down his emotions and took out the second holy weapon, the glory necklace. He said calmly, Lord 7 killing god envoy, I can sell this holy weapon to you, and I don't want you to pay 20 kulun of additional divine energy. There was no ease or joy on the face of the 7 killing god envoy. He asked cautiously, then what do you want? I have a third holy weapon here, which is this doomsday spear. Bai Pu said with a smile, I hope to use the power of the God's messenger to transform this holy weapon into equipment that can be used by the awakened. Can you all estimate how much Kulun God's power it would take to transform a holy weapon into equipment for the awakened? Chapter 363 Impossible. Bai Pu's request was not without purpose. On the one hand, holy equipment must be very powerful, and it does have such value. On the other hand, it is feasible. Holy equipment can be used as equipment by the natives, such as the holy thorn spear used by the Gilder. If the natives can use it, why can't I? Bai Pu was not worried that the various gods would unite to cheat him, because these gods belonged to different factions of gods, that is, different camps. Gods from different camps may unite in some extreme cases, but uniting to cheat Bai Pu, a small intermediate awakener, just for a few dozen Kulun divine energy? It's just like the United States and Russia in the 80s era formed an alliance to attack a township enterprise in China. It's ridiculous. Bai Pu left himself 2 holy artifacts, one for transformation into equipment, and one for the processing fee for the transformation of holy artifacts. Unexpectedly, no gods took over. Change the conditions. The 7 killing gods said lightly. Why? Can't you do it? Bai Pu was a little unconvinced. The conditions you proposed have exceeded the capabilities of the god envoy. The 7 killing god envoys said, only the great gods we believe in have the ability to do this. But for a mere crystal of divine power contained in a holy artifact, you want to alarm my lord? No god envoy would be so crazy. Even the other god envoys who isolated the 7 killing god envoys spoke up one after another. Yes, this condition is indeed impossible. If it involves the competition for the divine fragments, it is certainly feasible to ask my lord for help, but the level of divine crystals alone is not enough to alarm my lord. Divine crystals are benchmarked against holy artifacts, which are the so-called source fragments of the spirit world will. As for the divine fragments, they should be the things at the level of matrix mentioned by the spirit world will. The 7 killing god envoys said, Steel Heart, I can add another 10 Kulun divine power. Use 30 Kulun divine power and this immortal king's iron breastplate to exchange for a holy artifact in your hand. What do you think? This condition is more tempting than the total price of 40 Kulun divine power. However, Bai Pu shook his head and refused, smiling and saying, I'm sorry, the reserve price I set for this holy artifact is the processing fee for converting it into a holy artifact. If this bottom line is not reached, the only result is that it will fail to be sold. As he said this, Bai Pu took off the parchment scroll bound to the glory necklace, unfolded it, and showed the pre-written words inside to the gods. Impossible. No god's envoy would do this. Think about it again. The gods said one after another. But Bai Pu's attitude was very firm. The gods had no choice but to leave. They were in this space channel, and the stagnant space also required continuous consumption of divine energy. However, before leaving, the gods also reminded Bai Pu again that if he changed his mind about the remaining 2 holy artifacts, he could find them at any time. Metallica and his god's envoy, the god of the void, were the last to leave. Metallica once again expressed his gratitude to Bai Pu and introduced his own god's envoy to Bai Pu. This rough-looking young man has realized his value in the eyes of the god's envoy, and a considerable part of it comes from the intense relationship with Bai Pu, and he will do his best to maintain it. Of course, as a genius, Metallica also has his own pride. He also secretly determined to work hard to catch up with Bai Pu's footsteps and not always be a foil to others. The god of the sky is the god of the lord of the primordial magnetics. The external image is a hunchbacked old man. The light surrounding him is very special, like countless luminous fragments of metal. The god's envoy will not agree to your last condition, but you can try to contact the will of the spirit world. The god of the sky reminded. Thank you for your advice. Bai Pu's expression was very calm. The god of the sky smiled and disappeared in an instant. Without the support of divine power, Bai Pu, the blood spider, the goddess of Wushan, and Metallica all returned to the real world, which is the exit of the junction of Cloud Middle Palace. Gangson, what Lord Xian Kong said makes sense. It should be a feasible way to ask the spirit world for advice. Metallica was also going to return to the United States and Canada Federation. Before he left, he made a suggestion to Bai Pu. Bai Pu nodded and thanked him. After seeing Metallica off, Bai Pu, Wushan goddess, and Blood Spider returned to the office building of Special Service Group 6. In fact, you have already thought of the spirit world's will as a retreat, right? Wushan goddess always felt that Bai Pu's indifferent expression in the face of the god's envoy's suggestion was very telling. That's right. In fact, I have already thought that this request may be rejected in front of the god's envoy. Bai Pu had checked and found that the weight of the holy artifact in the mind of the god's envoy was quite high, but it was not the most important item that he was determined to obtain. Bai Pu paused for a moment and continued, I just tried to see if the gods had the ability to transform the holy artifact. Now it seems that the gods can do it. But the god's envoy is unwilling to help. Blood Spider still didn't quite understand. Don't you think that there are a lot of similarities between gods and the will of the spirit world? Bai Pu said, the divine fragments that gods need are the matrix that the will of the spirit world needs. The divine crystals that gods need are the source fragments that the will of the spirit world needs. Except for the different nouns, the items required by these two great beings are highly overlapping. In other words, what gods can do, the will of the spirit world can probably do, and maybe even better. The goddess of Wushan understood. You plan to use the holy artifact to communicate with the will of the spirit world to come, to help you complete the transformation of the holy artifact. That's right. In fact, I prefer to believe in the will of the spirit world than gods. Compared with private banks, people are more willing to believe in large state-owned banks backed by national credit. Bai Pu raised the glory necklace in his hand. I have obtained the source fragment. I request to reissue the scavenger mission. Almost the next second after Bai Pu spoke, the scavenger mission arrived as expected. The reward was the same as before. Bai Pu smiled. He responded so quickly twice, almost instantly, which showed that the will of the spirit world set the collection of source fragments as a very high priority. Bai Pu did not submit the mission, but tried to communicate with the will of the spirit world. I hope to change the reward of the scavenger mission to the transformation of this long spear holy artifact so that it can be used by me. Bai Pu showed the last holy artifact, the Doomsday Long Spear. Bai Pu's vision became blurred for a few tenths of a second, and then a line of words suddenly appeared in the place where he usually received the prompts from the will of the spirit world. Impossible. Chapter 364. I also work part-time, but I choose to take the civil service exam. Impossible in what aspect? Bai Pu was not panicked at all. Is it impossible to transform into equipment, or is there another reason? It can be transformed into equipment, but it is far beyond the limit of your use and cannot be used by you. The high equipment requirements are indeed a difficult hurdle. Can you tell me the equipment requirements? Bai Pu said. This time, the will of the spirit world directly sent a short equipment panel. It is a picture of the Doomsday Spear holy weapon after it is transformed into the awakened equipment. It is roughly equivalent to the concept map that Party B showed to Party A. Doomsday, encapsulated, equipment quality, 2-star king level, purple, equipment location, two-handed, equipment requirements, basic strength 120, basic agility 120, basic endurance 100, basic spirit 100, attributes, additional attack power 180-350, attack strength plus 120. The screenshot is only half, and the will of the spirit world is obviously not professional as Party B. However, Bai Pu did not dare to regard himself as Party A's father. He looked at the astonishing equipment requirements and his eyes were a little straight. There are requirements for all 4 attributes. The basic attributes of each item must not be less than 100, and the basic strength and agility must be 120 points. Bai Pu's basic attributes at this time are considered very good among intermediate awakeners, but he only has 44 basic strength, 31 basic agility, 50 basic endurance and 36 basic spirit. Except for endurance, which has reached half of the equipment requirements, the others are far from reaching them. The agility with the biggest gap only meets a quarter of the equipment requirements. However, Bai Pu originally did not intend to use this weapon at the level of intermediate awakeners. He aimed at the promotion to advanced awakeners. There happened to be a top-level advanced awakener at the scene. Such basic attribute requirements, can senior Wuxian goddess meet them? Wuxian goddess took a look and shook her head. Which one is not met? Bai Pu asked. None of them have achieved it. The goddess of Wuxian said, why don't you be more realistic and ask the god's messenger to exchange it for the suit parts? The reminder from the will of the spirit world came. King-level equipment is originally the equipment of the evolver stage, and most awakened people cannot meet the equipment requirements. Bai Pu secretly praised the goddess of Wuxian for her divine assistance. He immediately asked, the Lord Gilder of the original Sin world should only be at the level of a level 7 Lord. How does he use the holy weapon? The Gilder is not the owner of the holy weapon. He only temporarily obtained the right to use it from the owner of the holy weapon and can only use part of the power of the holy weapon. Just now you said most of the awakened people cannot meet the equipment requirements, which means that there are still a very small number of awakened people who can achieve it. Yes. Bai Pu felt a sense of urgency in his heart. The reply from the will of the spirit world meant that in the awakened stage, there were peak-strong people who could freely use Purple King-level equipment. This made Bai Pu firm in his judgment he must get himself a purple suit. In the advanced spiritual world, if Bai Pu encounters such an opponent, he will definitely suffer a disadvantage without the Purple King-level equipment. Is there really a high-level awakener who can reach 100 points in basic attributes? Bai Pu looked at the goddess of Wuxian. The goddess of Wuxian was stunned for a while, and then said in an uncertain tone, maybe, there is. The spiritual world is vast and boundless, especially other planets and other races. There are always some monsters with extraordinary talents. I remember the last time I went to the space battlefield, I encountered a golden side quest, destroy the country. In just 2 weeks, a powerful country with many high-level lords must be destroyed. This task, in the eyes of several awakeners from Earth, is absolutely impossible to complete, so we never thought about doing it. But when we completed the main line of the war delivered in space and returned to reality, we heard that the task of destroying the country had been completed by a team. We dare not imagine how strong a team that can complete the task of destroying the country in just 2 weeks is. Maybe among them is this kind of terrifying existence with basic attributes exceeding 100 and mastering Purple King level equipment. Destroy the country. Bai Pu's eyes flashed with a trace of heat. He looked up and said, I insist on my request. Please modify the reward of the scavenger mission. As for whether I can use it at that time, it is my own business. The will of the spirit world replied quickly, yes. After a 1-second pause, the will of the spirit world replied again, it will take 10 Earth days. It actually takes 10 days. Bai Pu was a little surprised. He thought that with the power of the will of the spirit world, it should be completed quickly. 95% of the process can be completed within 1.25 seconds. The remaining 5% of the process is, place the holy artifact in the Xianji and black evil membrane of the silver heart world and accept the evil power for 10 Earth days. Bai Pu heard a few more terms that he didn't understand, and suddenly felt ashamed of being a frog in the well. He really shouldn't question the professionalism of the will of the spirit world. Soon, the scavenger mission was withdrawn, and when it was released again, the mission reward had also been changed. Mission reward, Honor plus 1,500, free conversion process of the king level equipment Doomsday. Bai Pu breathed a sigh of relief. With a mission issued by the will of the spirit world, he didn't have to worry anymore. He directly handed over the 2 holy artifacts to the will of the spirit world. The will of the spirit world was quite particular and gave Bai Pu 1,500 war honors. In this way, Bai Pu's honor points reached 3,440/4,000. Bai Pu's military rank also climbed directly to lieutenant. The honor baseline for the rank of captain is 4,000 points. Bai Pu only needs 560 points of honor to be directly promoted to captain. Of course, to be promoted to colonel level officer, the required honor value reached a terrifying 10,000 points, and a bronze medal was required. After handing in the scavenger mission, Bai Pu suddenly saw another reminder from the will of the spirit world in a familiar location. Please upgrade your military rank as soon as possible. After being promoted to major, you can communicate directly with the will of the spirit world with your military rank, and your consulting authority will also be greatly improved. A smile appeared at the corner of Bai Pu's mouth. Senior Wuxian Goddess, what is your current rank in the spirit world war? Captain. Wuxian Goddess said. After being promoted to major, you can communicate directly with the will of the spirit world, and your consultation authority will be increased. Bai Pu said, do you feel that the treatment of school-level officers is a bit similar to that of reserve voters? Zuzu nodded and said, it seems to be the case. Those voters can certainly take the lead with the support of the gods, but as long as we are promoted to school-level military rank, it is equivalent to entering the eyes of the will of the spirit world. Bai Pu smiled and said, both are part-time jobs, but I choose to take the civil service exam. Wuxian Goddess and Zuzu both laughed out loud. The competition is over, and there should be nothing else in the real world in the short term. Which spiritual plane are you going to go to next? Wuxian Goddess asked. She knew that Zuzu was shy and embarrassed to ask, so she asked for help. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365 I am the worst at cutting cakes. I should choose a plain world that has already laid a foundation. Bai Pu counted, inner demon, original sin, flesh plague. I'll choose the world of flesh plague, distortion. Bai Pu's current main goal is not to gain much profit in the intermediate spirit world. Instead, he wants to obtain as many legend points as possible and light up the second-level talent tree. Of course, in the process of obtaining legendary points, he must do a lot of things, and the profit obtained will definitely not be small. The world that has already laid a foundation is more convenient for Bai Pu to turn the tide and obtain legendary points. The world of flesh plague, distortion has the highest degree of development at present, and the remaining one legendary point is the easiest to get. In addition, Bai Pu owns the territory of this world and can easily enter and exit the world, so it is listed as the first priority. The second place is Original Sin World. Bai Pu has left a backup in the Original Sin World that can be exploited, the Pure-Blooded Slave, the Level 7 Warrior Evolution Edge Bonnie, and the Original Sin World is more challenging as a high-level spirit world. As for the Inner Demon World, it is an illusionary plane featuring the inheritance of mysteries. Bai Pu has a good friend like Dongbo Changzi, so his foundation is not bad. The only problem is that it is not easy to get tickets to the Original Sin World and the Inner Demon World. The Original Sin World is a matrix plane. It is usually unheard of in the awakened world of Earth, so tickets are naturally not easy to get. The primary tickets to the Inner Demon World are more common. After all, there is a junction. Tickets that can directly locate the intermediate area, the Great Wilderness River, are relatively rare. Bai Pu plans to collect tickets to the Original Sin World and the Inner Demon World while cultivating the Flesh Plague, the Distorted World. Is that so? The Goddess of Wuxian shook her head slightly. You should only be allowed to enter and exit the fiefdom of the Flesh Plague, the Distorted World, by yourself, and King Guyan can't go with you. Blood Spider can explore on his own first. If you encounter more difficult problems, I can help if I have time. Bai Pu's words have made the meaning very clear. He is willing to team up with Blood Spider. Because only permanent teams have the default function of cross-border summoning teammates, of course, this function requires a lot of spiritual energy points, so it is not often used. The Goddess of Wuxian was waiting for Bai Pu to say this, and said with a smile, King Guyan, take out the team-building prop and team up with Steel Heart first. Blood Spider only reacted then. She exclaimed her face red like a boiling teapot. She suppressed the throbbing in her heart, took out the A-level team-building prop, 3 arrows oath, and gave it to Bai Pu. As for who would be the captain, Blood Spider insisted on letting Bai Pu take the lead. Bai Pu did not refuse. After the training of the college competition, he gradually realized the responsibility of a leader. For the sake of a trustworthy partner, even if there is some resistance in the heart, he must bravely take on the responsibility. After signing the contract, 2 arrows of the 3 arrows oath became slightly shiny, engraved with Steel Heart and Blood Spider respectively. This team can accommodate up to 3 permanent members, and the remaining arrow can be used by another awakener. The question is, who to give it to? Bai Pu and Zuzu are not good at socializing in reality. Of Bai Pu's colleagues and friends, those in the Special Service Bureau need not be mentioned. They have a fixed team. The only one who is related is Li Ling, but she is not good at fighting, and she is good at handling internal affairs. Zuzu has even fewer friends than Bai Pu. Let's put the last quota on hold for the time being. Bai Pu said, the strength of Zuzu and I is almost at the top of the level of intermediate awakeners. At most half a year to a year, we will be promoted to the realm of advanced awakeners. There is no need to find another intermediate awakener as a teammate temporarily. Well, then we will directly find a strong advanced awakener to join the team. Zuzu agreed. Hearing the word strong advanced awakener, the eyes of the goddess of Wushan flickered slightly. She waved her hand and said, that's it, you go back to school, and I should go back to Donghae. Bai Pu and Zuzu returned to Zicheng Polytechnic University. Originally, the two of them could not come back. After all, the school did not even have a boarder, and it was purely a waste of time. However, the principal of Xi'an Polytechnic Institute, Mr. K. Xiang, wanted to reward the meritorious officials, especially Bai Pu and Zuzu, the two fathers of the school team, which must not be overlooked. Bai Pu heard that the school's spiritual energy point bonus was 100,000, so he came here. When he arrived at the celebration venue and met the principal and teacher KK, he realized that the 100,000 bonus was awarded to the entire school team. How should the bonus be divided? Including the school team and the substitutes, there were a total of 10 people attending the celebration banquet. Principal K. Xiang smiled and asked, Student Gangson, you are the #1 contributor to the school team's victory. How do you think it should be divided? There was a hint of consideration in these words, as if he was testing Bai Pu's character. According to common sense, Bai Pu would be humble. As the first contributor, he was humble. Zuzu, Zhuangpin and others would definitely not be embarrassed to jump out and take the lion's share. The school could formulate a distribution plan to facilitate the process. At that time, more points would be given to the main players and less points to the substitutes. Principal K's leadership skills can be seen. However, Bai Pu didn't care so much. Since the principal asked me, I'll tell you straight. Bai Pu said, first of all, don't divide the substitutes. He hasn't played in a single game in the national competition. The smile on Principal K. Xiang's face froze. Bai Pu continued, of the 100,000, I'll take 80,000, and Senior Zuzu and Senior Zhuangpin will take 40,000. Teacher KK coughed, Gang Xin, did you calculate wrong? The total prize money is 100,000. According to your calculation, the three of you will get 120,000 in total, and we still owe 20,000. Aren't Jingzai and the others still here? Bai Pu said, they won the championship by luck, and they all got spiritual energy point rewards and spiritual energy infusion attribute rewards. The 20,000 is what they owe, and each of them just needs to pay 10,000. Jing, the first male with a normal face, Jingzai, laughed first. He clicked on a post in the Zhejiang University online community. Boss Gang Xin, did you get inspiration from this post? Jingzai swiped with 2 fingers to enlarge the virtual light screen. Now everyone could see it. The total strength of Ziliguang is 1 stone, Gang Xin alone gets 8 Dao, Zhuangpin and Zuzu get 4 Dao, and the rest are 2 Dao short. Everyone laughed. Bai Pu showed a smile that met the expectations of society and declined politely, I am the worst at cutting cakes, so the result will be terrible if I divide it. Let the principal divide it, no matter how much or how little, I have no objection. Okay. Principal K. Xiang smiled bitterly and shook his head. He had learned his lesson. Sure enough, the newcomer who rose to the champion of the college competition in just half a year was not simple. His leadership skills as a principal were completely useless and he was outmaneuvered. Chapter 366 Memories in Dreams. The final bonus of 100,000 yuan, the substitutes each symbolically took 5,000 yuan, and the main players each took 10,000 yuan. This left 25,000 spiritual energy points. Principal K paid another 5,000 yuan out of his own pocket, a total of 30,000 points, as a reward for special contribution, and divided it among Bai Pu, Zuzu and Zhuangpin, each of whom received another 10,000 yuan. After dividing the bonus, the celebration banquet began. Although it was not spiritual energy food this time, Bai Pu still ate with relish. After all, It was a free meal. The casual chat at the dinner table inevitably talked about the future of the school team. Principal K sighed, "Our Zilligang is very glorious this time. But what should we do next year? How many of the main players here will still be there? Pin and the two ordinary-faced men are all seniors, and they are in the graduation year. Repeating a grade does not exist, and repeaters are not eligible to participate in the college competition. Gangzin and Zuzu are only freshmen this year." Jingzai said half of his sentence, and was secretly stepped on by Pin. This sentence was said without thinking, and it was inevitable to offend people. In the college championship, the truly precious rewards are all unique. Those who have received them this year will not be able to receive them even if they win the championship again next year. Pin is thoughtful. He knows that with the strength of Gangxin and Zuzu, even if they join the A-level team now, they can at least qualify as substitutes. After training for a year or so, they can be promoted to high-level awakeners and maybe even start. Zilligang did not have much grace to cultivate the two. On the contrary, it was because of the outstanding performance of Gangxin and Zuzu that they picked up great honors. It was not reasonable to say let Gangxin and Zuzu fight for another 3 years. Bai Pu buried his head in the food and did not say a word. Seeing that he was silent, Zuzu also kept silent. Principal K did not ask any more questions, but just smiled and invited everyone to eat and drink. After the banquet, Principal K kept Bai Pu and Zuzu. "Student Gangxin, now that there are no outsiders around, tell me the truth, what are your plans for next year?" Bai Pu asked in return, "What are the principal's plans?" "I'm ashamed. As the principal, I certainly hope that you can stay in school for your sophomore year and bring more honors to the school." Principal K said, "However, school is a place to educate and cultivate talents after all. If students have a promising future and want to graduate early, I can't stop them. I haven't decided yet whether to graduate early. But I really don't need to stay in school, and the school can't provide the two of us with exciting training resources." Bai Pu looked at Principal K. Principal K said with a smile, "The school conditions of Xi'an Polytechnic are naturally not as good as those of famous schools like Zhejiang University. However, if the resources are tilted towards 2 or 3 people, it is still considerable." After a pause, Principal K said, "Just now when we were distributing the bonus at the table, it was not appropriate to be too special. I will personally give you a B-level or higher spiritual world ticket as a thank you for your honor for the school." At this point, Bai Pu naturally expressed his position, "We have thought about it. With the current strength of the intermediate awakeners, if we enter the A-level league, we will also sit on the bench for a long time. So we plan to spend about a year to hone our strength, and after being promoted to senior awakener, we will apply for graduation. I hope the school can strongly support it." "That's for sure." Principal K nodded with a smile. He didn't think about letting Bai Pu fight for another 3 years, that was unrealistic. An extra year of buffer time. The school is looking for backup forces. Principal K Xiang said, "There's a good seedling, quite interesting, do you want to meet him?" Bai Pu nodded. Principal K took him and Blood Spider out of the school cafeteria and went to the school team training ground. "Look, that's the girl." The girl had her back to the two of them, practicing wooden sword slashing and stabbing in a serious manner. She had a high ponytail and was full of youthful vitality. Occasionally, because of the sword drawing action, her face would turn to the side, and Bai Pu saw the other person's appearance. She had long eyelashes and a round face, as if she was holding 2 steamed buns. Bai Pu was surprised to find that this girl was actually an acquaintance. Zhejiang No. 17 Middle School, the granddaughter of the old principal, Shi Yi. It was also the person who lent Bai Pu his meal card in the month of preparing for the college entrance examination. What puzzled Bai Pu was that Shi Yi didn't like fighting and loved dancing. It seemed that she was also the upmaster of the dance area of a certain platform. How could she suddenly become an awakener? This person is a bit low in level. Blood Spider suddenly spoke. She is only level 2? The template is only at the elite level. Is she really the reserve force of the school? Level 2 elites, placed in the senior combat class, are not even the top level. In college? It's too far away from the level of the college competition. Principal K Xiang smiled and said, "She applied to transfer to the combat department after the school started, and her growth time is much shorter than that of Gangxin. She must have something extraordinary to make the principal remember her so deeply." Bai Pu said a decent dialogue that met the expectations of the society. Indeed, this girl is gifted, Especially in combat skills, she is almost self-taught. Look at her sword movements, although the basic attributes are insufficient, but the movements are already quite coherent and free, with an elegant dance beauty. This is not the level of a low-level awakener. Bai Pu and Blood Spider nodded after observing. Shiyi's current combat expertise can even be comparable to Bai Pu's level before his job transfer, and at that time Bai Pu was already at level 3 with 100% experience value, and advanced to level 4 expertise. Bai Pu couldn't help but guess, could Shiyi have a natural ability to improve her skills? Otherwise, a level 2 awakener should not have a level 4 expertise level anyway. As for Shiyi's successful awakening, it is not so surprising. She had been practicing dancing diligently, and her basic attributes, body coordination, etc., were far superior to ordinary people. Once she worked hard to practice fighting, she would soon reach the limit of a quasi-awakener. Shiyi, come here. Principal K. Xiong raised his hand to signal. Shiyi finished training and looked up to see Bai Pu. She was slightly startled, then she tidied up her bangs and trotted over. Principal K. Xiong didn't know that Bai Pu and Shiyi knew each other, and he was still smiling and introducing them. Shiyi, these two are the trump cards of the school team, Gangsun and Zuzu, who just won the championship. They are from the same class as you, so you can't be proud and complacent. Shiyi nodded obediently. Zuzu glanced sideways, and seeing that Bai Pu didn't say anything, for the sake of politeness, she still bit the bullet and spoke. I saw your swordsmanship moves just now, very elegant, like dancing. I guess you have to have an advanced 4th level of expertise. How did you do it? Can you tell me? Asking about other people's talents and abilities right away, I can only say that it is worthy of being Zuzu, that is, reckless. She retracted his furtive glance at Bai Pu and said curiously, advanced to level 4? I haven't. I just practiced in the most comfortable position for me. This is natural talent. Principal K. Xiong touched his chin and said with satisfaction. He was optimistic that Shiyi would become the second Steelheart. Bai Pu was speechless. Compared to the pain he had gone through to correct his posture when practicing sword, Shiyi's talent was simply God's gift. You really don't have any natural talent in swordsmanship. Zuzu couldn't believe it. Really not. Shiyi thought for a while, and suddenly said, sometimes I dream about things from my previous life. This sword practice posture also comes from the memories in the dream. Chapter 367 Internal and External Troubles. Memories of the previous life? A key word in Bai Pu's memory bank came to mind. Earlier, the envoy Xiaxia said that the God clan has memories of previous lives. Could it be that Shiyi has the blood of the God clan? This thought flashed through Bai Pu's mind, and he did not make it public. At present, we know too little about the God clan, and we don't know whether they are enemies or friends, good or evil. Bai Pu secretly filmed a 9 chapters detection on Shiyi and confirmed that Shiyi's race is an ordinary human race. And looking at Shiyi's ignorant appearance, it seems that he has not awakened any previous life. Bai Pu also sent a message to Li Ling, asking her to go to Zichen No. 17 Middle School when she is free and ask about the background of the old principal Shiyi. If she is really the old principal's granddaughter, the possibility of a God clan can be basically ruled out. Instead of believing that a God clan appeared on Earth, it is better to believe that Shiyi is a gifted human. Student Gangsun, after Zuanpin graduates, you will be the captain of the school team. Principal K said, when are you free? The school plans to hold a simple captain succession ceremony. I can be the captain, so there is no need for a ceremony. Bai Pu didn't want to waste time, and maintained a smile that met social expectations and said, Principal, you said that you would personally reward me with a Class B ticket. Can I collect it later? That's no problem. I can buy it any time. The principal's network of contacts is wider than Bai Pu's. Bai Pu's network of contacts, which he developed with the help of the anti-aging cream, is still young, and many transactions need to be completed one by one to confirm the mutual trust relationship. Principal K. Xiong is different. He has taught in many schools, and his students and former officials are spread across all walks of life. Bai Pu thanked him and watched the principal leave. Although he and Shiyi were reunited as old friends, Bai Pu couldn't find much to talk about. Shiyi kept laughing awkwardly, as if he had no place to put his hands and feet in front of Bai Pu. Bai Pu saw this, encouraged Shiyi a few words, and left the school. Only Shiyi was left looking at Bai Pu's back, wanting to say something but stopping. Back at the Zicheng army branch, Bai Pu explained some matters to Li Ling, such as purchasing blue equipment, making and selling anti-aging cream, etc. Li Ling helped Bai Pu a lot, which was equivalent to half of Bai Pu's housekeeper. In Bai Pu's storage space, some things that had long been useless, such as 2 tickets to low-level worlds, one for the Adventure King, Sailing World, and the other for the Heart Demon, Oath World, were put up for sale by Li Ling. Also on sale were low-end props and sundries such as whetstone. However, Li Ling's circle of contacts has also been greatly expanded, and her power in the organization is also growing. According to gossip, Li Ling will be promoted to captain next spring. Although it is a timed promotion rather than an exception, it is already a miracle for Li Ling, who has no background or foundation. While refining the anti-aging cream to gain experience, Bai Pu received a letter from Mr. Olsen, the practical officer of Scania territory. It seems that it is not yet the second quarter of the territory's tax collection. Bai Pu opened the letter with some surprise. Sure enough, this is not a tax report. Mr. Olsen said in the letter that the situation in Sweden has been a little bad recently. The Queen Mother personally visited Scania and specially invited Marshal Diofula to discuss major issues. Sister Kin is in trouble. Blood Spider was a little excited. Let me see if I can buy a ticket for the Flesh Plague, the distorted world. I will also help her. Bai Pu didn't know when the relationship between Blood Spider and Kin became so close. What Bai Pu didn't know was that when Blood Spider was dragged to the Thorn Passion Sanctuary by the Gilded Man, Kin grabbed her wrist without thinking and was teleported to the sanctuary at the same time. Blood Spider remembered this friendship in his heart. Of course, in the subsequent battle with the Gilded Man, Blood Spider also used the space-cutting secret to save Kin. The two had this friendship of fighting side by side, and it was reasonable that they had a close relationship. I'll go and see what's going on first. Bai Pu simply sorted out the affairs in reality, and then used the Fula family Earl emblem, again to teleport to the Flesh Plague, the distorted world. Dio. What should I do? As soon as he stepped into Kin's bedroom, the latter threw himself into Bai Pu's arms. Stop, stop. This is not your style. Bai Pu pushed Kin's face away. I use the emblem, and the time I can stay is limited. If you have anything to say, tell me as soon as possible. As a princess saved by a prince, appropriately showing a pitiful, weak and helpless attitude will help stimulate the other party's desire to protect and increase the sense of accomplishment. Kin held a book without a cover. That's what the book says. You are not a princess, you are the princess's mother. Bai Pu ignored Kin's raised fist. What happened? Remember the last time your mind was attacked and occupied by a group of foreign bandits? Kin said. Of course I remember. The bandit leader was killed by me, and the instigated lower-level bandits were recruited by me. Bai Pu said. Those foreign bandits were instructed by someone. The purpose of the mastermind behind the scenes is to constantly harass the ports on the southeast coast of the Swedish Empire so that grain ships from the European continent cannot dock. Kin had obviously investigated the matter very clearly. Now the Swedish Empire is in ruins, and food and daily necessities are largely dependent on imports. Without the sea trade line, domestic grain prices remain high, and then the mastermind behind the scenes incites the hungry people to rebel and destroy the rule of the Vasa dynasty. Who is the mastermind behind the scenes? Bai Pu asked. Too many. Kin sighed. During Gustav's reign, the Blood Ring fought everywhere and conquered the entire Nordic Europe. Even the homeland of the Slavs had to surrender. Now that Gustav is dead, Christina has turned back into normal human, and the Blood Ring fortress has lost its foundation. Although we have withdrawn from the occupied territories and shrunk comprehensively, those conquered countries still do not agree and are taking the opportunity to counterattack. Bai Pu narrowed his eyes and smiled. There should be difficulties inside as well. You guessed right. The great nobles in the country were already dissatisfied with my regentship, and they took this opportunity to denounce me. The most serious threat was that they wanted to exile me. After Kin became regent, in order to strengthen central power, she strictly ordered the nobles not to keep private armies. Originally, there was the deterrence of the Blood Ring aberrant core, and this decree was backed by force. Even if the process was tortuous, it was still a sure success. Now that the foreign invasion has arrived, the internal situation is in turmoil. Kin took out a letter of credence and handed it to Bai Pu. This is a letter from the Grand Duchy of Moscow, the Kingdom of Denmark, and the Kingdom of Norway. It requires Sweden to cede 1/4 of its territory, cancel Christina's title of empress, and change the empire to a kingdom. That damn new Tsar even asked me to marry him. Chapter 368, Transformation of Spirit World Tickets. 17th century was in a state of chaos until the new Tsar Mikhail I ascended the throne and started the rule of the Romanov dynasty. Mikhail was not considered a founding emperor. He was able to take the throne based on the reputation of his father, the Orthodox Patriarch Philaret. The relationship between the two was somewhat similar to that of Cao Pi and Cao Xiao during the Three Kingdoms period. When the Bleeding Hollow Empire expanded its territory, Philaret was captured alive. The Bleeding Hollow Emperor Gustav intended to use Philaret's reputation to rule the Slavs, so he never killed or converted him, but chose to imprison him. Philaret's unyielding loyalty in the face of Gustav won him great political prestige. So much so that when the Russian nobles were elected at the Gentlemen's Assembly, most of the nobles elected Philaret's son Mikhail Romanov to ascend the throne as Tsar. Later, with the disintegration of the Bleeding Hollow Empire, Patriarch Philaret returned to his country. Philaret has a hardline and sophisticated political skills. After he returned home, the actual power of the Russian Empire, as expected, belonged to him, and he became the de facto emperor. It was his idea to marry his son to the Queen Mother Regent of the Swedish Empire. On the surface, Kin's status was noble. After marrying Tsar Mikhail I, Russia had a legitimate reason to intervene in the power of the Scandinavian peninsula. In time, it was possible for the Tsar to serve as the King of Sweden. From a personal perspective, Kin is the world's top flesh and blood alchemist, and has participated in the development of the Blood Ring curse and the New Curse. Holding Kin in hand is equivalent to receiving most of the legacy of the Blood Ring fortress. The beads on the abacus are about to fly out. Which side is the force that cuts off the maritime trade line? Bai Pu asked. It is the navy sent by King Christian IV of Denmark. Kin said. Then solve the problem of Denmark first. Bai Pu said, as for Tsarist Russia, we will deal with them after we have free hands. To restore the route, we must defeat the Danish navy, but our navy is too weak. Kin said. Because Gustav's military focus was on the army, the Swedish Empire organized battles to conquer Norway, Denmark and many other Nordic countries, but did not establish hegemony at sea. Developing the navy is not a matter of a day or a night, because it takes time to build warships, and it takes time to find wood of the right age for the main material of the warship, the keel. Bai Pu said, there is no need to give up the long and short. The Danish navy is strong, but it may not be the case on land. Bai Pu had studied the map before. The city of Malmö in southern Sweden is very close to the Danish capital Copenhagen, separated by only the Øresund Strait, and the width of the narrowest point is only 4 or 5 kilometers. But to send troops to the Danish mainland, a large fleet is needed. Kin said. Don't be so troublesome, just send me over. Bai Pu said, Denmark was once conquered by the Blood Ring fortress and has long been deeply marked by the Blood Plague. For us, this is the home advantage. The backbone and leaders of Denmark's current army are composed of qualified people, and the bottom is ordinary militia. Bai Pu's Blood Plague fluctuations have no effect on these armies. But Denmark was once ravaged by the Blood Plague, and there are still a large number of dead plague victims and even elite deformed monsters in the country. Bai Pu can use the deterrence of the original heart and the help of Kin's curse scroll to enslave a large number of these lost Blood Ring monsters. Kin's eyes lit up and smiled. That's right. I'll help you make the Blood Ring curse scroll. The problem now is that I need a ticket that can stay in this world for a long time. Bai Pu said, with only the Earl's emblem, the time I can stay in this world is very limited. There are only 5 days left, and I don't want to use up all these precious 5 days. If Bai Pu uses up to 5 days of free stay this time, he will not be able to come here if there is any situation later. You said before that the Spirit World ticket is a psychic item with special historical significance. I specially prepared a few for you. Can you see if it's okay? Kin waved her hand, and several pearly ornaments appeared on the table in front of Bai Pu. Queen Christina's seal. Queen Christina's pearl necklace. Queen Christina's coronation crown. Why are all of them Christina's things? Bai Pu picked up 3 things, but he got a hint that he didn't have the ownership of these 3 things, so he couldn't take them out of this world, nor could he activate the resonance of psychic particles. Kin frowned and said, none of these things work? Then I can't do anything. It's mainly a matter of ownership. I just need to find an item of historical significance from my lord's mansion. In the lord's mansion, every blade of grass and every tree belonged to Bai Pu. Of course, Bai Pu couldn't just pull out a blade of grass and use it as a ticket to the spirit world. It had to have a certain value and a historical significance. It should be noted that if Qin put valuable items that didn't belong to Bai Pu in the Lord's mansion, Bai Pu still couldn't obtain the ownership. There was an intelligent judgment of the will of the spirit world. Bai Pu patrolled the room and finally picked up a decorative sword hanging on the wall. This decorative sword was a decorative item forged by the blacksmith shop in Bai Pu's territory, and was used as part of the in-kind tax. When Bai Pu picked up the decorative sword and silently thought of using it as a ticket to the spirit world, the will of the spirit world quickly gave a hint. The ownership check has passed. The item meets the conditions for generating the base material of the spirit world ticket. Based on your rank, Lieutenant, you have the authority to convert it into a spirit world ticket anchor. Please pay 5,000 psychic points. Bai Pu chose to pay and then use the ticket directly. The light of psychic particles on the decorative sword shone, and finally turned into a stream of particles like green smoke and merged into Bai Pu's body. The decorative sword disappeared just like that. You used a spirit world ticket. You have obtained 2 days of free exploration time. Please trigger the main task within 2 days. You will be repatriated if you fail to do so. Before Bai Pu could react, the will of the spirit world sent another reminder. Main task 1, lifeline at sea. Task objective, restore the smoothness of Sweden's sea routes. Task difficulty, A. Task duration, 10 days. Task reward, blood of the mad lion. Swedish Empire reputation 301,000. Failure penalty, exile. As the regent queen mother of Sweden, Jean is a very important world landmark. Not to mention the main quest 1, even the main quest 2 can be easily triggered. As for the reward blood of the mad lion, it is a blood and flesh alchemy mixture made by Qin, which increases the strength and agility attributes by 15 points and lasts for 30 minutes. Such a high-quality reward is already the highest-level reward among A-level tasks, and it is also the best reward that Qin can give within the limits. Some people may say, what is the point of such a reward? Bai Pu can take the potion directly from Qin. It's very simple. Bai Pu can take this bottle of potion out of this world. Bai Pu used other potions made by Qin in the world of Flesh and Blood Plague. After leaving the world of Flesh and Blood Plague, when you encounter a situation where you need it, use this bottle of blood of the Mad Lion mixture. This is the meaning. Chapter 369, Explosive Troops. The main quest is triggered. With the 2 days of free exploration time that comes with a ticket, Earl Fulei's decorated saber, Bai Pu has a lot more time. Even if he doesn't use the remaining 4 days of free time from the Earl Fulei's emblem, Bai Pu still has 12 days of exploration time. Qin handed some alchemical potions to Bai Pu, and then stepped up the time to make the curse scroll. Bai Pu looked at the blood of the Mad Lion potion in his hand and fell into deep thought. Blood of the Mad Lion potion, after drinking, it increases your strength and agility by 10 points, which lasts for 30 seconds. Drug resistance, 10 points. They are both called Blood of the Mad Lion, and they are all potions produced by Qin. Why are the effects so different? This bottle of potion Qin gave Bai Pu increases 10 points of strength and 10 points of agility, which can only last for 30 seconds. The reward for the main quest, Blood of the Mad Lion mixture, not only increases strength and agility by up to 15 points, but also lasts for up to 30 minutes. Qin is now Bai Pu's follower and can also see the digital information of the will of the spirit world. After checking, she was also confused because she did not specially prepare any enhanced version of the Mad Lion's blood mixture. Even if Qin used it herself, it could only last for 30 seconds. Maybe as a task reward, this bottle of potion has been strengthened by the will of the spirit world. Bai Pu noticed that the task reward of the will of the spirit world is mixture. This little difference in name may be the reason. Bai Pu rested well, took supplies, and went to Mama alone. Across Mama, looking from afar, you can even see the shadowy outline of Copenhagen on the other side of the Øresund Strait. A small sailboat was arranged in advance, carrying Bai Pu. Bai Pu did not go straight to Copenhagen. Even if Bai Pu's strength is already very strong at this time, he is at the ceiling level in the intermediate spirit world, and he is not interested in breaking into the enemy's nest alone. Just think about Gustav's end and you will know. He was exhausted by hundreds of blood-ring deformed monsters until his fighting spirit was on the verge of drying up. Although he died at the hands of Bai Pu in the end, even if Bai Pu and Duke William did not take action, It would only cost dozens of blood ring deformed monsters, and Gustav's final fate would still be death. A strong man can fight many enemies alone in a short period of time, but he cannot be isolated and surrounded by a large army. Bai Pu planned to go to other cities and villages in Denmark first to find wild deformed monsters to transform and strengthen his own troops. This process is called violent troops. After going north along the Øresund Strait and arriving in Helsing, Bai Pu ordered to go west, cross the Øresund Strait, and land on Zealand Island in Denmark. Zealand Island is the largest island in Denmark, with an area of more than 7,000 square kilometers. It is the political, economic and cultural center of Denmark, with the most dense population. At the same time, the capital Copenhagen is also on this island. Naturally, during the period when the flesh and blood plague was rampant, the number of dead plagued monsters on this island was also the largest. After the collapse of the Blood Ring Empire, Denmark launched the Rebuilding Home operation, organizing adventure teams to expel and kill deformed monsters. Those Blood Ring deformed soldiers stationed in the Danish fortress were killed because of the effect of the curse and fought to the death. The rest of the wild deformed monsters, based on the instinct of survival, fled from villages, towns, cities and other human settlements and ran to remote rural areas. Helsingør, a town in the northeast of Zealand Island. The tavern is usually where the adventure group collects intelligence and accepts tasks. On the walls of the tavern, there are notices. In the woods 12 miles northwest of Helsingør, there is a group of dog monsters entrenched. The bounty is 20 silver crowns. In the valley 5 miles west of Helsingør, there are many powerful deformed monsters wandering. The bounty is 40 silver crowns. At this time, many notices have been peeled off by adventurers. With the wisdom of adventurers, of course, the tasks they choose are of relatively low difficulty and can get the bounty steadily. The tasks left on the wall are basically difficult, or too remote and dangerous areas. In short, it is thankless. Bai Pu, wearing a black cloak, walked slowly to the wall of the tavern. There were 2 young adventurers in front of the wall. He was in high spirits and had sharp perception at this time, and heard a short conversation. Yeezy, Denmark is rebuilding its homeland now, and there are many bounty missions. Unfortunately, many of the missions here have been picked up by the indigenous adventure groups, and the remaining ones are almost all rubbish. Brother Yaoi, how about we change places? There may be better taverns in Copenhagen. It turned out to be 2 awakened ones. Have you 2 made your choice? Bai Pu asked. Not yet. Please go ahead. The male awakened one named Yaoi bowed politely. Bai Pu hummed, walked over, and began to peel down the task list. When Bai Pu peeled off the first task list, the bartender whistled. Finally someone is willing to deal with those bad dogs, huh? I hope you won't become the food of those mad dogs. Then Bai Pu peeled off the second task list. The bartender's eyes widened. You want to challenge 2 difficult tasks at the same time? This is against the rules. Bai Pu peeled off all the task lists from the wall one by one. You kid, are you here to cause trouble? A strong adventurer stepped out of the crowd and cursed with a breath of alcohol. Each adventurer can only accept 1 task. Don't think about leaving here before you put the task list back. Bai Pu glanced back at him. The strong adventurer suddenly shuddered, and a sense of fear surged from the bottom of his heart, as if a mountain was collapsing in front of him. This was Bai Pu's key locking him. A strong man who has cultivated the mystery can control his own spiritual key and form a murderous intention that is as real as a substance. For example, when Bai Pu first met Dongbo Changzi in the world of inner demons, the latter's eyes were as sharp as a knife, which was actually the overflow of ki. The strong adventurer sat on the ground with his butt, and then got up in a mess. Bai Pu ignored him, put away a stack of task lists, and walked out of the tavern. Hey, Johnson, what's wrong with you? You must have been fidgeting on Lilia's belly for too long last night and your legs are weak. A burst of laughter broke out in the tavern. The native named Johnson shouted angrily, bullshit. That guy just now was scary. If you don't believe me, go and try to stop him. In the tavern, no adventurer dared to try. Although they made fun of Johnson, they were not fools and could feel that the guy in the cloak was not easy to mess with. Johnson was scared like this with just a look. What would happen if he really started fighting? The bartender murmured, if he really has such strength, it would be a good thing. Finally someone is doing these difficult jobs. Chapter 370 Whatever you do. In the tavern, the 2 awakened people Yaoi and Yizi looked at each other and followed quietly. Brother Yaoi, the mysterious adventurer just now was very strong. My ghost eye detection could not detect any information about him. Is he an indigenous person or an awakened person? The female awakened person Yeezy asked in a low voice with some excitement. It must be an indigenous person. The male awakened person Yaoi was a little scared. Yeezy, you can't detect these indigenous strongmen casually. The other party should not care about you. If you anger him, we will be finished. Brother Yaoi, I think this indigenous strongman should be kind. He was offended by a weak adventurer, but he didn't teach him a lesson. I think we can try to follow him and find some benefits from this strong man. It would be even better if we can get his guidance. You are right. But let's observe for a while first. We don't have a forced return prop, so we must be careful. Bai Pu rode forward and soon reached a distance of several kilometers. Helsingin Green is not a large area. According to the information on the bounty order, there is a tribe of dog-like deformed monsters living here, with dozens of them. Bai Pu did not need to enter the forest to find the nest of these dog monsters. He directly stretched out his finger, and a drop of bright red liquid slowly oozed out from his fingertips. The breath of pure blood naturally spread. The attraction of pure blood to deformed people is unquestionable. The instinct of evolution will prompt these deformed dog monsters to follow the trail. In less than 10 minutes, Bai Pu heard the rustling sound of fallen leaves being trampled, and a group of tall and strong mutant dogs with various deformed characteristics came out of the forest. The eyes of these mutant dogs were all green, and they looked at Bai Pu with undisguised desire. But they did not dare to pounce on them rashly. Bai Pu is the host of the original heart, the source of the blood and flesh plague, and has a natural rank oppression on these mutant dogs. Bai Pu put away the pure blood, turned his horse around, and headed for the next target. The mutant dogs seemed to be under a spell, and followed Bai Pu not far behind him. They didn't dare to get too close. At the same time, the instinctive desire for evolution prompted them to follow the pure blood and not give up. When passing a hill, Bai Pu glanced at the bushes next to him. There were 2 people hiding there. But Bai Pu ignored it. His time was precious and could not be wasted. The Danish court didn't know when it would discover Bai Pu, the invader, and take countermeasures. Before that, the more troops Bai Pu accumulated, the better. In the bushes, listening to the sound of horses' hooves in the distance, Yaoi and Yeezy quietly poked their heads out. It's so thrilling. I didn't expect this aboriginal warrior to return so quickly. We were almost discovered by him. We have been discovered, but he just ignored us. Yaoi said with lingering fear. Brother Yaoi, what do you think he is doing? With his strength, it shouldn't be difficult to destroy the group of mutant dogs. Why did he go to such lengths to bring those monsters back? The way the group of monsters followed Bai Pu just now didn't seem like they were hunting Bai Pu, but were following him step by step. I don't know. I always feel that this person is very mysterious. Keep following him and see what he wants to do. When he gets impatient and asks us to come out, we'll talk to him. The 2 of them followed Bai Pu quietly all the way, and within a day, they ran through all the monster settlements around Helsingir. Behind Bai Pu, there were already hundreds of deformed monsters. These deformed monsters were mainly humanoid creatures, and there were relatively few other animals such as mutant dogs and mutant wolves. Yaoi and Yeezy were already numb. Yeezy secretly detected a circle and found that the overall strength of this group of monsters was quite strong. At least 1/3 of them were elite templates, equivalent to the level of Blood Ring Heavy Hammer or Heavy Swordsman, far higher than the average Blood Ring Deformer army. There are also several powerful deformed ones who look like leaders, with obviously different auras from other monsters, and they have enhanced elite level strength. Perhaps it is because the easy-to-deal-with monster groups have been solved by adventurers, and the ones who can survive are naturally elite. At this time, Bai Pu spoke. You 2 have followed me for a day, and it's hard. Come out and tell us your purpose. Yaoi and Yeezy had already imagined the words in their minds dozens of times. When they heard Bai Pu's voice, they rushed out and slid to their knees on the ground. Mysterious strong man. The 2 of us admire your strength very much. Please accept us and work for you. No matter what we do, please. No matter what we do. Bai Pu smiled, okay. But your strength is too weak and you can't do anything. Yaoi hurriedly said, the 2 of us have other partners. We can gather other partners to form an elite team, which will definitely meet your needs. Forming an elite team, this means that the 2 of them don't have a fixed team. Are they going to find other awakened people who match in this world? After Bai Pu made a judgment in his mind, he said, "Don't worry for now. You should get my trust first. Hey, please give me your instructions." Bai Pu said, "There are such deformed monsters in other cities on Zealand Island. Go to the taverns in other cities and tear off all the task lists and give them to me." Bai Pu received a prompt from the will of the spirit world, based on your identity, Commander-in-Chief of the Swedish Imperial Army, leader of the camp, Count of Scania, you are qualified to issue side quests to awakeners. During the process of issuing tasks, you must strictly abide by the principle of equivalent exchange and provide rewards that meet the difficulty of the task. Bai Pu glanced at a series of task release terms, then edited the task information and chose to confirm. This is the authority of the camp leader. Bai Pu used his authority as early as the last Battle of Linköping to expel an awakener from the Swedish rebel camp. Yaoi and Yizi both received prompts from the will of the spirit world at the same time. Side quest, gain trust, quest target, a mysterious strong man, anonymous, asks you to collect information about the deformed monsters on Sealand Island for him. Please retrieve the bounty posted in various taverns. Quest difficulty, CB+, quest deadline, 24 hours, quest reward, unknown, failure penalty, none. Finally found the quest. Yaoi and Yizi were very excited and bowed repeatedly before leaving. Bai Pu saw the two people leaving and smiled. Then he looked at the hundreds of monsters and took out a curse scroll. Chapter 371. The Deformers are his source of soldiers. Copenhagen. General Rudolph's residence. Two middle-aged men met in the reception room. Sitting in the host's seat was General Rudolph, with a beard, a face full of flesh, a sturdy figure, and a rough and heroic temperament. The visiting guest was a thin man with a somewhat melancholy temperament. He had flaxen aristocratic curly hair and two thick dark circles under his eyes, like some kind of eyeshadow. "Rudolph, you are now trusted by His Majesty the King. Such an important duty as guarding the royal city has been entrusted to you," the melancholy and thin man said. "Luther, why do you envy me? Originally, you should be the general that His Majesty the King trusts the most. If you were not too stubborn and repeatedly blocked His Majesty, you would not be dismissed by His Majesty." General Rudolph laughed. Luther, the former Danish general, could only sigh, "I'm not stubborn, but I want to be loyal to the king, and I can't just watch him do the wrong thing and do nothing." "Oh, it seems that your opinion has not changed," General Rudolph said. "Last month, you said you would cross the sea to Sweden to verify your speculation. So, what did you gain?" "I mainly wanted to find out information about the Swedish military commander, Diofur." Luther was worried. "I went to Scania, the fiefdom of Diofur, but didn't see him. The Earl's mansion announced to the outside world that Diofur was in seclusion and would not see anyone." "Huh? What a weird guy," Rudolph commented. "But what about you? The stubborn Mr. Luther should not give up, right?" Luther said lightly, "In order to force Diofur out, I planned a robbery, secretly guided a few bandits, and took a small group of homeless refugees to occupy the Basong silver mine in Scania." "Silver mine? Diofur will definitely be unable to sit still now." General Rudolph laughed. "Yes, I saw Diofur take action with my own eyes." Luther's eyes were still filled with deep shock. "This is a very powerful guy. His fighting power is not inferior to that of His Majesty the King, who holds the inherited weapon. Aren't you exaggerating a bit?" General Rudolph was a little unconvinced. "Exaggeration? A few bandits can't test his full strength at all. I doubt that even His Majesty the King, who holds the inherited weapon, is no match for him. How terrible is a man who can fight against a tyrant Gustav? Here we go again. It's because of your arguments that His Majesty the King is unhappy, so he dismissed you." General Rudolph said dissatisfiedly. "Diofur is indeed the one who killed Gustav, but the main force in that battle was the Elector of Brandenburg, Duke William. Now Duke William is busy with the war on the European continent and has no time to cross the sea and intervene in the affairs of the peninsula. The Swedish Empire has been severely damaged after this internal friction. It is a great opportunity for us Denmark to regain its glory. What's more, His Majesty the King is very cautious. He also invited the Grand Duchy of Moscow. Oh no, he invited the Russian Empire to attack both by land and sea, from the east and the west." Luther waved his hands repeatedly. "Okay, I don't want to argue with you, Rudolph. You are guarding the royal city, and you have a heavy responsibility. Don't neglect it. Don't worry, I have scouts all over Zealandia, and I know everything about it. Rudolph smiled and said, speaking of which, an interesting thing happened in the past 2 days. What interesting thing? Zealandia is not that big, but it is worth listening to if Rudolph calls it an interesting story. A mysterious guy went to the taverns in Helsingør and took on all the adventure missions in the taverns. The next day, taverns in several cities on Zealandia were robbed, and the mission lists posted on the walls were all missing. Rudolph spoke excitedly. Luther smiled and said, it seems that this thief has a strange collecting habit. However, on the first day he went to Helsingør to take the mission, he took off the mission list openly, right? Did anyone stop this guy? Well, I don't think I heard about it. Luther frowned slightly. What's the matter now? Rudolph asked puzzledly. It's a bit unusual. There should be quite a few adventurers in the tavern, and the last thing they lack are nosy guys. If this man was just an ordinary thief, how could he not be stopped? Unless. Luther paused, unless he has strong strength, so that those shrewd adventurers dare not take action. A guy with strong strength came to Zealand Island. He did these things by no means aimlessly. Luther guessed here, and immediately asked, have you sent someone to investigate the intelligence? Are there any changes in the gathering points of deformed monsters around Zealand Island? I have sent several shrewd adventurers to investigate. Rudolph is not a drunkard, but he still said doubtfully, there is no need to be so nervous, Luther. It should be a good thing if this person can eliminate those deformed monsters. At most, we can give him more bounty. Rudolph said. I'm afraid his purpose is not as simple as destroying the deformed monsters and collecting the bounty. Luther stood up suddenly. The predecessor of the Swedish Empire was the Blood Ring Fortress, which had the ability to recruit deformed monsters and transform them into an army. Defies, the commander-in-chief of the Swedish Imperial Army, temporarily controlled a large number of deformed monsters to surround and kill Emperor Gustav in the Battle of Linköping. This mysterious man is definitely a spy infiltrated by Sweden, and must be arrested immediately. At this time, the guard came to report that a team of adventurers had an appointment with General Rudolph. Rudolph slapped his thigh and said, the people I sent out to explore the monster gathering points are back. Let them come in and report. Not long after, several people dressed as adventurers walked into the reception room one after another. What are the results of the exploration? Rudolph was not interested in chatting with these low-level civilians, and asked directly. Report to the general. We didn't see any traces of monsters at the several monster gathering points we went to. A short and stocky adventurer said. We didn't see any signs of fighting at the gathering point, not even a trace of blood or a scratch. Another tall, thin, dark-skinned adventurer said. The monster disappeared strangely. Luther's expression became serious. Rudolph, prepare for the worst. I have revised my previous speculation. The person who came is not just a spy. He is very likely the commander of the Swedish Imperial Army. Defies himself. Impossible. Is he coming alone to die? Rudolph was frightened by this unreasonable speculation. You don't understand how terrible this person is. The deformed are his source of soldiers. I'm afraid he has already summoned an army of deformed, just like the Blood Ring Monster Army. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372. That's it? Luther made an opinion. Rudolph, Copenhagen is an open city, not a solid fortress. You should immediately move the people to Roskilde Fortress, gather all the troops on Zealand Island, and prepare for battle. What about the royal family? Rudolph asked. Move together. Without solid evidence, just relying on your speculation as an unemployed civilian, you want the royal family to move for refuge. This is not speculation, this is a proven fact. Even if it is a fact, can't I and my guards fight against Defies? General Rudolph shook his head and said, I can't convince the queen. If I ask her to move for refuge, in the eyes of the royal family, the guards will no longer have honor, and they are all a group of incompetent people. Luther's fingers trembled slightly, pointing at Rudolph. Your stupidity will ruin the whole country. After that, Luther strode away. Where are you going? Rudolph asked. I want to save my motherland in my own way. Luther didn't even look back. Several adventurers looked at each other and chased out at the same time in tacit understanding. the valley on the west side of Helsingør. Nearly 2,000 deformed monsters have gathered in front of Bai Pu. In the past 2 days, Bai Pu has traveled all over Zealand Island and gathered all the deformed monsters that can be attracted. He used 3 curse scrolls one after another to apply modified curses to them. Now, these 2,000 deformed monsters are an absolutely loyal army. In terms of eliteness, they are even more powerful than the Bloodring Legion at the beginning. After all, the slightly weaker deformed monster groups have almost been wiped out by adventurers. Fortunately, there are 2 awakened people who serve at all times, saving Bai Pu at least 10 hours of precious time. You did a good job. After Bai Pu inspected the army, he looked at Yaoi and Yizi. It is our honor to serve you. The 2 bowed at a standard 90-degree angle. Yaoi and Yizi were also filled with joy. They also received the prompt of the will of the spirit world. Side quest, gaining trust has been completed. Based on the way you complete the task, the floating difficulty is C+, and the completion evaluation is C. You have received rewards: Swedish Empire Camp Reputation plus 100, Merit plus 50. The Swedish Empire Army Commander, Dio Fuli's favorability towards you has increased, and the current favorability level is 300/1000, friendly. Finally got the name of the mysterious strong man. Yaoi and Yizu were excited. The commander of the Swedish Empire Army. My god, this is one of the leaders of the camp. And why did the Marshal of the Swedish Empire come to the main island of Denmark alone? Just thinking about it is enough to make the 2 awakened people tremble with happiness. World event. In fact, Marshal Diofula is the awakened Steelheart. Some awakened people already know this, the awakened people who participated in the Battle of Linkoping and saw Bai Pu picking up the treasure chest. But the awakened people who know this are only a very small number after all. They will not spread this valuable information everywhere, otherwise it will only damage the transaction value of the information. Yaoi and Yizi in front of him were both confused. Bai Pu looked at the 2 and said, "You have already gained my trust. I will tell you my plan for this trip. If you are willing to participate in my plan, that would be the best. If you give up because of the difficulty, I will never force you." Bai Pu took a breath and pointed his finger in the direction of Copenhagen. "My plan is to capture the royal city of Denmark." Yaoi and Yizi knelt down with a plop. "Please allow us to participate in this great plan, please." Under the night, Copenhagen was quiet. This open city has no city walls, only watchtowers built as sentinels on various main roads. On a watchtower, the sentry on duty yawned. Being on duty here is a very safe and boring job. Denmark is an island country, and this is the main island of Denmark. If the enemy wants to come, they can only march from the sea. At this time, Denmark, under the decision of the great Christian IV, has established a powerful navy with 60 ships. Looking at the whole of Northern Europe, there is no country that has the ability to break through the Danish navy's blockade and attack Denmark. The sentry just wanted to have a good sleep when he felt sleepy. But he couldn't sleep. General Rudolph's military order was merciless. Sentinels who neglected their duties could only be hanged. When his eyelids were fighting, the sentry suddenly saw a shadowy and dark shadow in the mountains below. It was like a gathering of human figures. The sentry stood up with a start, rubbed his eyes, and looked closely. That's right. It was a silent army advancing. Those scarlet eyes, firm steps, full of silent tension. At this moment, the sentry finally remembered the fear of being dominated by the deformed monsters and the shame of being enslaved by the Blood Ring Fortress a few months ago. Enemy attack. The monsters of the Blood Ring are back again. The sentry shouted loudly and lit the warning beacon. The black shadows jumped, and several agile shadows jumped and flew over, climbing to the top along the outer wall of the watchtower in a few seconds. This is an agile deformer with both hands and feet deformed into claws. They raised their dark claws at the sentinels. Hiss. The sentinel's body was cut open like a fruit, and blood covered the top floor of the watchtower, extinguishing the warning beacon. This was the first victim. However, the sentinel's warning was still effective. The watchtowers on the road to Copenhagen lit beacons one after another. Shouts rang out, and the city became chaotic like a hornet's nest smoked by smoke. The Danish royal guards were gathering, and the heavy footsteps ran neatly through the streets, attracting the residents of Copenhagen to look out. Outside the city of Copenhagen, the 2 armies faced off in the night. There was no epic opening, no exciting drumbeats. The 2 armies collided in the most direct way. The Danish army had a numerical advantage. It had to be said that Luther's warning had worked. At least General Rudolf had transferred the garrison forces from other cities on Zealand Island to Copenhagen to protect the royal family. General Rudolf commanded the troops to form a pincer formation, circumventing from both wings like a huge pocket, encircling less than 2,000 deformed monsters. Is this all Diofurt's art of command? General Rudolf smiled disdainfully when he saw that the troops had surrounded the deformed army. Chapter 373. Only I have the ability to stop him. However, after the pocket formation closed in, a tall Swedish warmblood horse broke through the crowd. On horseback, the knight in heavy armor, with his two-handed sword flying, stabbed or poked. Anyone who dared to stop him would not survive a round. Now Bai Pu's riding skills have reached the advanced level 3, limit breaker +1, and he can make good use of the impact brought by the warhorse and the advantage of being high above to increase the power of his own attack. From a data perspective, when the warhorse sprints, Bai Pu's ordinary attack can gain a 10%-20% power increase limited by the quality of the horse. If the mount is stronger and can withstand Bai Pu's high-intensity force, the upper limit of this increase can even reach 30%. But now it is enough. When dealing with soldiers with ordinary templates on the periphery, they are really injured and killed if they touch them. Behind Bai Pu, a group of ferocious mutant dogs followed closely, attacking and biting the Danish soldiers who were broken out of the formation by Bai Pu. Behind them was the slightly slower deformed corps. Less than 2,000 deformed corps, led by Bai Pu, formed a sharp arrow that was determined to penetrate the Danish army's pocket formation. These deformed corps were all given the bonus of Bai Pu's A-level title, Corps Commander. As a direct subordinate unit, they obtained all attributes equivalent to 10% of Bai Pu's. The specific bonus is 9 points of strength and 9 points of endurance, 5 points of agility and 5 points of spirit. 28 points of attribute bonus, equivalent to raising the attributes of these deformed corps by 1.5 levels. Facing the Danish soldiers, they actually felt invincible. We must stop him and destroy the arrowheads of the arrow formation. Rudolf gave a loud command, and the guards held up their shields and raised their guns, welcoming Bai Pu's charge in a well-trained posture. In response to them, there was a terrifying fan-shaped sword energy with a radius of 7 or 8 meters and a span of more than 10 meters. Volcano appearance, bombardment, landslides and earthquakes. In the first row of the battle formation, the elite Danish guardsmen, facing this extremely sharp fan-shaped sword energy, felt as if their hearts were being tightly grasped by a big hand, almost suffocating. They felt that a disaster was coming, and they could only activate the damage absorption shield skill, hoping that their shields and armor could withstand this attack. However, this was a self-created secret skill based on the ultimate secret, Mountain Collapse, which had the effect of tearing armor and ignoring shields. Time on the battlefield seemed to slow down, and the sound was still. The Danish guardsmen in the first row watched the sharp sword energy approaching inch by inch and sweeping across. The shields and guards did not play a protective role. They only felt their bodies lighten and flew up like clouds. The first row of Danish guardsmen were cut in half without any hesitation, and blood and internal organs flowed freely. This sword energy was a range attack. Although the soldiers in the first row consumed part of the power of the sword energy, the remaining power still swept to the second and third rows. The originally neat spear and shield formation of the guards was cleared out into a clean fan-shaped shape by Bai Pu's sword. The soldiers in the back rows, who were at the edge of the sword energy, were seriously injured even if they did not die, and wailed everywhere for a while. Bai Pu led the deformed corps, stepped over the broken limbs and flesh on the ground, and slammed into the back of the guards' formation, pointing directly at General Rudolf. Some deformed people could not bear the desire for flesh and blood, picked up the broken limbs and arms, stuffed them into their mouths and chewed them. For a while, the scene was like hell. The morale of the Danish army dropped sharply. They were not like the deformed corps, whose morale was constant and the orders of the superiors were everything. They would be afraid, run away, and disobey orders. The commotion began to spread. Some soldiers were from the local Danish army. They were just farmers who had put down their hoes for a few days. They were frightened by Bai Pu's strength and the brutality of the deformed. They dropped their weapons and fled. The escape of the enemy army even led some guards to escape. "Boas, you command for me." General Rudolf rode a black warhorse, holding his lance horizontally, and gave an order in a deep voice. Boas was his adjutant. He realized what Rudolph was going to do and quickly said, "General, you stay in command. Let me take the guards to take over. You are still a little short of strength." General Rudolph put on the visor of his helmet, and his voice buzzed through the metal mask. "On this battlefield, only I, Iron Wall Rudolph, have the ability to stop him." Rudolph rode his horse and charged. As a heavy cavalryman, charging at full force is very scary, like a heavy truck, flying towards Bai Pu. Bai Pu had already taken the Chapter 9, Detection. Iron Wall Rudolph, Enhanced Leader Level 6, Race, Humanoid Human, Occupation, Shield Cavalry Commander, Attributes, Strength 75, Agility 45, Stamina 90, Spirit 30, Skill 1, Iron Wall, Passive, Rudolph gains 45, Fixed Physical Damage Reduction. Actively activate Iron Wall to increase Rudolph's armor by 60 points, lasting 600 seconds. Skills 2-6, Lance Thrust, Shockwave. At full speed, Rudolph's lance tip was like a heavy blood-red meteor, attacking. Lance Thrust. Bai Pu reined in his horse, swung his sword with a mountain collapse secret, and fought Rudolph head-on without any fancy moves. With a rumble of thunder, the air vibrated violently as the two blood-fighting spirits clashed, and transparent ripples formed a storm that blew in all directions. The warhorse under Bai Pu's crotch could not withstand such a strong force and took 2 steps back. This is a normal way to relieve force, which can reduce the recoil damage. Rudolph's lance thrust with the momentum of the charge was blocked, just like hitting a high wall, a mountain. He and his horse suffered higher recoil damage because he could not retreat to relieve the force. But Rudolph did not change his expression. He took a heavy shield from the saddle with his left hand and smashed it down. A cone-shaped shock wave spread out. Bai Pu also smashed down the shield, and the desperate blood-red shock wave offset the shock wave in front of him. However, the shock wave is a skill with a wider range, and Bai Pu can only block a small area in front of him. On both flanks, the deformed were stunned by the shock wave. Rudolph's personal guards rushed up with shouts, surrounded Bai Pu and launched a fierce attack. Swish! Bai Pu's blood river territory suddenly unfolded, and under the vast blood-colored phantom, Rudolph's guards were like being trapped in a quagmire, and their movement speed was greatly reduced. Only a few people could barely move, but they could no longer pose a threat to Bai Pu. Even Rudolph himself was in danger. In the first 2 rounds, he was able to fight Bai Pu on equal terms because he relied on the power of his skills. Bai Pu's collapse of the mountain is so strong that there is no cooldown time for the skill at all. As long as the consumption of fighting spirit can keep up, the terrifying output efficiency can be maintained. The most important thing is that the collapse of the mountain is a complete restraint for General Rudolph, who is good at defense and has extremely high armor. Chapter 374 Bai Pu's Reserved Measures. Bai Pu's real strength is 86, and his strength judgment is as high as 131, so he can use the mountain collapse secret skill with a high strength judgment to challenge General Rudolph's main combat skills. After Rudolph used 2 skills and recovered briefly, Bai Pu rode his horse forward and slashed with his sword. Rudolph waved his lance to parry, and this time he fully felt what it meant to be crushed by power. With a loud clang, Rudolph's arms were numb, blood oozed from his knuckles, and he even felt that he couldn't hold the lance steadily. You know, as a long-handled weapon, the lance is the most suitable for fighting with force during the cavalry battle stage, and it has an additional strength bonus. But even with the additional strength bonus, Rudolph still couldn't win in a head-on confrontation. This is the strength of the commander of the Swedish Imperial Army. Dio Fuhrer. It's all my fault. If I had listened to Luther's advice. Rudolph regretted it in his heart. He saw from the corner of his eye that the fearless group of deformed monsters had broken through the pocket formation formed by the Danish guards, completely crushing the encirclement and turning it into a melee. The strength of the deformed monsters is already strong, and with the title of Commander of the Army of Bai Pu and the bonus of the Blood River territory, they are even more fierce. Seeing that the morale of the Danish army is collapsing, Rudolph blames himself. He should not fight the army led by Dio Fuhrer in the field. He should listen to Luther's advice, withdraw from Copenhagen, retreat to Roskilde Fortress, use the terrain to delay, and wait for His Majesty the King to lead the navy to come back for help. At this moment, a horn suddenly sounded. A group of extraordinary aboriginal adventurers with different clothes, led by a thin middle-aged man, shouted and joined the battle. The middle-aged man leading the team was Luther. He shouted loudly, Hold on, Rudolph. His Majesty the King has replied and will definitely come back for help within 2 hours. The adventure group brought by Luther is a new force. Although its strength is not as good as that of regular troops, this kind of chaotic battle is what they are good at. It was unknown how Luther had inspired them, but the morale of the adventure group was quite high. They rushed into the group of deformers from the flank, intending to cut the deformer's core into 2 parts. 2 hours to help. Bai Pu smiled. If you said 12 hours, I could believe it. It took more than 12 hours to transmit information from Copenhagen to Kalmar Harbor. Obviously, the so-called 2 hours by this new general was just a rhetoric to inspire the morale of the Danish guards, which was a white lie. Of course, it would be better if it could cause commotion and panic among the invaders. However, the deformer's core had no such things as military spirit and morale. The only person who could be affected by this lie was Bai Pu, the commander. Bai Pu could naturally judge the truth and would not be affected. Even the adventurers who were temporarily recruited were sent. This should be the last resort of you Danes. Bai Pu continued to suppress Rudolph with his greatsword, saying, then next, another method I arranged can come into play. Bai Pu took out an alchemical item in the shape of an eyeball and crushed it with force. The Eye of Saigon is a very simple alchemical tool. It can be broken by induction and can transmit basic information. Boom. Boom. In the main city of Copenhagen, where the royal palace is located, violent explosions sounded, accompanied by flames and large clouds of thick smoke. Rudolph's face changed suddenly. In order to resist the deformed corps led by Bai Pu, he mobilized almost all the troops of the Danish guards. Now Copenhagen's garrison and security forces are extremely empty, like a naked beauty. He didn't expect that Bai Pu actually set up a backup plan and sent his men to destroy the city and attack the royal palace. Luther. We must retreat to the city immediately to protect the royal family. Rudolph shouted. No. If we retreat now, everything will be over. Although Luther was also worried about the royal family, he was more aware of the current situation. The Danish army, together with many adventurers, barely fought a tie with Diofur's deformed corps. If they retreated now, it would most likely cause a rout. Especially these adventurers, they can only fight when the wind is favorable. Once they are at a disadvantage, they will definitely flee the battlefield first. I have found a group of adventurers to assist in the defense of the city. They are quite strong and will definitely be able to drive out the invaders and protect the palace. Luther could only hope that his last straw of life would play a little role. However, Rudolph's heart was in turmoil, and the morale of the Danish guards under his command was also in turmoil. The city of Copenhagen, which caught fire and exploded, is not only the seat of the royal family, but also the home of these guards. They couldn't help but wonder if their wives and children would be in danger. If they stayed here and continued to fight and were killed by monsters, who would save their families? If they fled back, could they take their families away before the monsters entered the city? Bai Pu took a deep breath and suddenly jumped up from his warhorse. He was wrapped in a thick blood-colored gale and pounced on Luther in midair. After just a short encounter, Bai Pu realized that although Luther's strength was not as strong as Rudolph's, he was a think tank type figure, and it was not an exaggeration to say that he was the brain of the Danish army. So Bai Pu directly activated 2 major bonuses, pure blood and gene fusion. While his own attributes increased significantly, he activated Gang Fang Luo Blade, and rushed straight to Luther, wanting to kill him first. Luther didn't say a word and rode away. In front of Bai Pu, 2 indigenous adventurers came up and tried to stop him. However, when Bai Pu landed to gain leverage, the edge of the chainsaw sword flashed, and 2 heads flew into the sky. His single foot stepped on the ground and made a terrifying sonic boom. With a turn and change of direction, he caught up with Luther's warhorse. With Bai Pu's current sprint speed after activating Gang Fang Luo Blade, he was faster than a galloping horse in a short time. Of course, long-distance running is still more advantageous on a mount. Luther pressed his hands, jumped off the warhorse, and transformed into 4 black shadows, continuing to flee in different directions. He was only a level 6 leader, and had no idea about the notorious Diofule. He just wanted to delay until Rudolph arrived. The problem was that Bai Pu's Blood River territory greatly limited his speed. Luther's skill of splitting 4 shadows to escape can gain a 30-point speed bonus, but it didn't work at all at this time. Only the split phantom part worked. Bai Pu's Gang Fang Falling Blade landed, and the eye of the storm formed by the greatsword hitting the ground sucked back all the 4 Luther phantoms that escaped a little. Pop 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 pop. All 4 phantoms were shattered. They were all fake. A shout sounded, and Luther's real body fell from Bai Pu's head, holding a slender knight's sword in both hands, with blue sword energy spiraling around his head and feet, shooting down like a meteor. Spiral Comet Strike. Chapter 375 18K. Luther had no other choice. He found that being in the Blood River territory was like being in prison, with no escape. He could only make up his mind and give it a try. Facing this powerful, spiral comet strike, Bai Pu responded with a simple backhand upward slash of the sword. The phantom of a mountain collapse emerged on the sword tip. Boom! With a loud bang, Luther's figure was blown away, and blood spurted out of his mouth in the air. He was a level 6 agile leader, and his strength was less than half of Bai Pu's. You should know that Bai Pu was in the strongest state with full firepower at this time. Therefore, the effect of the tyrant's crazy attack was maximized, and Luther's skills were broken, and he was knocked out. Bai Pu raised his hand and clenched it, and the lasso attack bound Luther in the air, dragging him over, followed by a mountain collapse knife. An agile fragile skin, including the passive skill health bonus of the leader, only has no more than 2,000 health points. The damage caused by Bai Pu's sword has exceeded 1,000, directly triggering the instant kill of the collapse of mountains, cutting Luther from the chest to the back, and chopped him into 2 pieces in a very brutal way. No. Rudolph, who came late, roared in anger and despair. He had tried his best to get closer, but he had short legs and was restricted by Bai Pu's Blood River territory. Bai Pu killed Luther too quickly. It took less than 5 seconds from catching up to killing him. The adventurers around were terrified. Except for a few 2 or 3 people who stayed to continue fighting, the others fled. You cowards, stay and continue fighting. Rudolph took Bai Pu's sword and was shocked to find that Bai Pu's strength had increased again, as if he was stronger and faster. But he was still trying to hold on, and at the same time scolded the adventurers for being cowardly. No one of the adventurers paid attention to Rudolph. They were originally recruited by Luther after spending all his family wealth. Now that Luther is dead, the balance has gone, so there is naturally no reason to continue fighting. As for protecting the motherland, it is even more nonsense. Most of these adventurers are wanderers from various European countries, and there are even impoverished nobles from Sweden. How can they have such a lofty sense of honor? The most important thing is that Bai Pu is so cruel. The adventurers lost the courage to continue fighting after taking a look at the chainsaw sword. Rudolph's stubborn resistance did not work. After using Jin Fusion, Bai Pu's fighting skills are much better than his. Almost every 1 or 2 moves, a wound can be cut on Rudolph. Under the ability of tearing armor with the collapse of the mountain, Rudolph's proud high armor is useless. Finally, Bai Pu's series of ordinary attacks made Rudolph stiff, and a 3-point world lifted Rudolph high and threw him heavily into the crowd of Danish troops. With a loud bang, Rudolph's body was broken into 4 pieces and scattered. The sharp sword energy of the 3 kingdoms swept along the ground, and the remaining force killed several Danish soldiers again. A Danish soldier subconsciously took a black ball, which was bloody. When he looked carefully, he shouted in panic, "Oh no, General Rudolph was killed." The Danish soldier threw away Rudolph's head and turned to flee. As if triggering a domino effect, the morale of the Danish soldiers completely collapsed and they fled towards Copenhagen. This battle was engraved in the history of Flesh Plague, the distorted world. The Battle of Copenhagen. The commander of the Swedish Imperial Army, Diofur, rushed into the battle and killed the commander of the Danish Guards, Iron Wall. Rudolph defeated the main force of the Danish Guards, and then occupied the Danish royal city Copenhagen. When the Battle of Copenhagen started, the main urban area of the royal city, near the royal palace, Yaoi and Yizi were lurking in the shadows. They were also communicating with several awakened people they had found through the cheap short-distance communication prop worn walkie-talkie. Several awakened people who had temporarily united were envious of Yaoi and Yizi for having such a big leg up, and they wanted Yaoi to help introduce them. Yaoi did not comment, but emphasized, "Marshal Fule values our value. If we do well this time, there will be no problem. If things go wrong, I will not have the face to introduce you." Soon, the beacon fire was lit, and with the sound of heavy troops gathering, the Danish guards rushed to the outskirts of Copenhagen. "Yaoi, should we take action?" A voice came from the walkie-talkie. "No hurry, taking action now will only attract General Rudolph to come back for help. Let's wait for the natives to fight, and Marshal Fulay will issue orders when they need us. Yaoi said. That's right. We awakened ones should take advantage of the Aborigines and wait until the battle situation is intense and the defenders can't come back for a while. A voice of agreement came from the other end of the walkie-talkie, the wealth of the entire Danish royal city. It's a pity that we can't take it away. We can only plunder as much as possible, and then trade with the Aborigines in exchange for some things that can be taken away. Yaoi did not comment and waited patiently. Suddenly, something in Yaoi's storage space was slightly hot. He hurriedly took it out, and it was indeed the Eye of Saigon. Crack, the Eye of Saigon broke apart. Marshal Fulay has given orders. Detonate the goblin engineering bomb immediately. Yaoi shouted excitedly in a low voice. No problem. Boom. The explosion sounded, and a sea of fire suddenly ignited at the explosion point. The wind helped the fire, and the sea of fire quickly turned into fire. Yaoi, Yuzi and those temporary allies, the awakened ones, appeared in groups of 3 or 5, killing and looting in Copenhagen, creating chaos. Suddenly, a voice came from the walkie-talkie. Who are you? Ah, that scream was full of unwillingness. Yaoi's face changed. Who is coming? Hello. After a few seconds of silence on the other end of the walkie-talkie, a strange man's voice sounded. You, get out of Copenhagen immediately. You ran into us 18K. It's your bad luck. Give up the mission. People from 18K? This sound is Steel File. Yaoi and Yuzi looked at each other. Yaoi had inquired about the intelligence of the awakened people who entered the Flesh Plague Distortion world in this match. 18K is one of the quite powerful awakened organizations. There are 7 or 8 members in this match. The strongest among them are Steel File and Black Hawk, who are considered the leaders among the intermediate awakened people in 18K. Both of them are hero professions with strong strength. They are not dared to be touched by elite professions such as Yaoi and Yuzi. However, Yaoi was unwilling to give up this quest line. It was a rare opportunity to get close to such a famous native as Marshal Diofure. Hey. I understand what you mean, we will definitely do it. Yaoi agreed very happily. In fact, he and Yuzi stepped up the destruction, setting a fire and moving to another place. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.